In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Gobble and waddle. These are two of the largest turkeys ever presented to an American president, over 50 pounds each. In other words, they could be fat, but they're still maha. I don't need to fight. I had a little bit of a Pritzker joke. I was going to talk about Pritzker in size. I refuse to talk about the fact that he's a fat slob. I don't mention it. I was going to call him Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those two people. I wouldn't pardon them. I wouldn't care what Melania told me.
He's just a vile creature. The worst thing on the face of the earth.
I doubt it.
You are fake news.
I don't think nothing's funny about it.
Very fake news.
I don't give a damn fuck.
Go back to where you come from, okay?
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
Fed.
All right, America, go to the YouTube right now.
Skag free, whoever he is.
Duct tape all over the place. It's a disgrace.
In 5, 4, 3.
I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live, a proud duct tape production for Sunday, November 30th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you all had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Sitting shotgun tonight is our friend Joshy boy. Welcome back.
Hey.
How was your Thanksgiving?
I went over to my dad's and he cooked, and all I did was show up and eat.
Well, that sounds like a perfect way to enjoy the holiday. Congratulations.
Yeah, I ain't had to do shit. I just showed up, ate your food, and left.
Sounds great. Thankfully, my mom does the majority of the labor, so shout out to my mom for doing all the Thanksgiving cooking, and we had a good Thanksgiving as well. Hope everybody else did. Hey, great guest tonight. Jason Vukovich is known as the Alaskan Avenger. This is a man who spent several years in prison. He got out recently in the last year or two, I think. But he committed violent acts of vigilante justice against convicted child predators in Alaska. Now, was this justice against child abusers and their light sentences? Was this additional criminal activity just a thug taking the law into his own hands? This case is a fascinating one philosophically. So we'll get to that segment in the second hour of the show. Before that, all the week's news, including an Afghan CIA asset who came over from Afghanistan after the 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal. Mm-hmm. He drove all the way across the country, Joshy. He went Washington to Washington. You ever been to Bellingham, Washington?
No, I've never been out that far.
Bellingham, Washington is basically Canada. It is like the outside of Alaska. It is the northwesternmost place you can go in the United States. So he went from all the way in that corner, all the way over to the East Coast. He just drives to D.C. and he shoots two National Guard soldiers on the street a couple blocks away from the White House. One is dead. One is still fighting for his life. And, of course, there's a lot of fallout over that. Do not demonize all Afghan refugees, Joshy. That would be the real tragedy in this horrific attack. We'll get into that story momentarily. In a Thanksgiving classic tweet, you know who had a great Thanksgiving? Donald Trump. After he was done pardoning the turkeys, he got on Truth Social and Twitter, and he posted about a mile-long paragraph. In the middle of it, just straight up calls Tim Walz retarded. The seriously retarded governor of Minnesota. And once again, the big issue here is not the poor management of that state at best and the outright fraud that continues. Yeah. It's the fact that we described the guy who's in charge of all that as mentally challenged. That's what we should all be worried about, is the word choice. Plus, we got a lot of updates in stories we've discussed previously. I've got Hoax Hate to close, and of course, we'll take your super chats as well. Thanks to everyone who supports the show. Before we get into it, we got to say hello to our featured listener-owned businesses or business for the evening. That's our friends at Hope Innovations. Have you ever wanted to grow your own garden, but you didn't feel like you had the space? With food prices rising and chemicals being added to our food every day, you might consider adding a hydroponic garden system to your home. Grow clean and fresh produce all year round with the Eden Tower from Hope Innovations. When it comes to growing your own food, invest in the best system out there and discover the joy of regularly having freshly harvested salads, homegrown herbs, tomatoes, peppers, and more with your very own hydroponic system, engineered to be elegant and practical. The Eden Tower stands above the competition with its patented cup system that allows you to drop a seed and go. You do not need a green thumb to easily grow delicious and nutritious food all year round. Get $200 off an Eden Tower hydroponics kit from Hope Innovations through a listener-exclusive link available only on my website. Head on over to mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Find the Hope Innovations link. Click that for $200 off an Eden Tower hydroponics kit. Get started growing your own food easily and simply today. And not only do you get that special listener exclusive $200 off deal, but my sources say the Black Friday sale is still live over at Hope Innovations. So if you head on over to their website, you can find it through the deals page on my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Lots of deals to be found at Hope Innovations. Makes a great Christmas gift, of course, as well. And speaking of Christmas gifts, don't forget our friends over at Hero Soap Company. Makes a great gift option as well. It's a great smelling, all natural, handmade in the USA product. A portion of all sales benefit military and first responder charities. And of course, you can get my signature soaps, Timberline and Old West. And Hero has some classics returning for Christmas too. Lemongrass is calming and lemony sweet. Spearmint is fresh and cool, just like the chewing gum. And it's not just soap either. Hero offers shampoo and conditioners as well. So if you have someone smelly on your Christmas shopping list, or just someone who appreciates the finer things in life, pick up some Hero soap to stuff those stockings this year. 10% off all of it using promo code MCListener. 10% off everything from our friends at Hero Soap Company. Promo code MCListener. As always, find all the information on all of my deals at mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Deals by listeners for listeners. All right, getting into it, Joshy.
Yeah.
I regret to inform you, and I regret to report to everyone else that it looks like we have yet another case.
Oh, Lord.
Another fatal Indian truck driver crash, or at least very possibly. Now, I was thinking, Josh, at this point, it's so frequent that I need to do like a sounder or a bit.
Remember when you did one for the Muslim attacks?
I think I might have it in here somewhere, but yeah, that's debatably poor taste. And then what am I going to talk
Come on,
to?
if you did it for the infidels, you can do it for the Pajeets.
I know.
Don't even worry about it.
It's probably no more poor taste than the nothing to do with the Religion of Peace terror attack of the week. I don't even know what I would call the bit, but there's opportunity for one, given the frequency of these events. Now, of course, we've been chronicling these events for a couple months now. By these events, I mean cases of quite often truck drivers, semi-truck drivers of Indian descent who are in this country on questionable legal terms and who are commercially licensed drivers, often in the state of California, also on questionable terms. And they are crashing into people. They're crashing their trucks. They're doing illegal maneuvers on the roadway that are causing other people to crash. Okay. Something like that looks like it happened again in Oregon this week. This is Deschutes County, Central Oregon. A 25-year-old man and a 24-year-old woman are dead after a fatal crash Monday morning. I think this was late at night or early in the morning. A Freightliner truck driven by Rajinder Kumar is this guy's name. He is, according to this reporting, he's from Fresno. He's just a Fresno man. Joshy.
From Fresno. Okay.
He was who doesn't have a friend named Rajinder from Fresno? He was so his truck jackknifed on the road. It was stopped. It was blocking both lanes. The man who was driving the car and the woman passenger crashed into his trailer. They died at the scene. And semi-trucks do jackknife. It happens commonly around here. Any place where there's snowfall, big snowstorms, you will see semi-trucks jackknife on the road. However, Rajinder Kumar must have done something more than just, understandably slide in the snow, because he is now charged with criminally negligent homicide and reckless endangering. The reporting that I see on this story says that there was no emergency warning equipment deployed in dark conditions. Now, truckers in the audience, you could inform me. Does that mean that the trucker has an obligation? If the trucker crashes the truck and is blocking the roadway, if the trucker is able, I assume it's the trucker's responsibility to get out some sort of emergency warning equipment to warn oncoming drivers?
They typically have cones out, reflective cones that put it around or the back so people will see them.
I assume there's some kit like that in the rig.
They're supposed to. I think, I'm not a trucker. My mother recruits truck drivers, so I might be able to ask her. I think it's a requirement. I could be wrong on that.
That's what the story says, is that there was not warning stuff put out on the roadway, and that was a factor in the crash. So I assume his negligence has something to do with that, possibly other factors. Now, interestingly, I was reading, so this is reporting in local ABC. I was trying to get more information. I look at local NBC, similar characterization of the story, but you scroll down, and now Rajinder Kumar is he's not a Fresno man anymore. In this story, he's a New York man. He's a New York resident.
Oh, wow.
Very strange. And you also learn that he has a history of at least minor traffic infractions. He was ticketed in January of 2024 for violating Oregon safe operation equipment rules by failing to carry chains in a snow zone. That could have contributed to the jackknifing in this case. He was also ticketed for lacking an Oregon weight limit tax permit. Now, I don't know about all the trucking permits, but I gather that
that's new to me.
You carry this amount of weight, this many miles, and there's some kind of tax applied to that. He wasn't following that correctly. So, unfortunately, it looks like we have another case, although I was not able to find a booking photo of Mr. Rajinder Kumar. It's probably out there somewhere.
They probably don't want to endanger that Indian trucking company from last time.
I don't know if that guy is California specific. I don't know if he has anything to do with this. I also don't know, is this dude licensed in New York? Is he licensed in California?
That's a good question.
I don't know that information
either. He's violated a bunch of
He's driving through Oregon regularly, apparently. But
I'm willing to wager that he's from California.
He's just a Fresno man. Just your old pal Rajinder from Fresno.
If he's from New York, he's probably gotten a free license from Mondani, and then that he's taking control of New York City.
Maybe, or soon to be anyway. I got another friend, maybe you know this guy, Nelson from Nashville. That's kind of your neck of the woods.
Kind of.
Now, 2 weeks ago, the government shutdown ended, but the challenges for food stamp recipients have not. Those continue. Now, recall that part of Trump's big, beautiful bill that passed earlier this year was food stamps reform. And the thing that was controversial was work requirements. So if you're an able-bodied food stamp recipient, you don't have kids at home or other things that would restrict you from working, you have to work, and not even full-time. You need to work 20 hours a week.
They did that in my hometown.
Okay, so maybe if you don't know Nelson, maybe you've seen some Nelson-adjacent consequences. Anyway, like during the shutdown, we know that the people who are supposedly starving without food stamps, they're not real because the news reporters were so desperate to find them to feature them, and all they could do was find people who proved the point about food stamps. Case in point, this is the story from Nashville about Nelson from Nashville. This story went viral this week. In describing the consequences of these new work requirements for food stamps, local Nashville 17 highlights this man, Nelson Scott. He's 38 years old. He's able-bodied. Okay. He doesn't work. He collects almost $300 a month currently in food stamp money. Now that he has to work to collect the money, he says in the story that went viral this week, quote, "That's some bullshit."
Government officials say if you are 18 to 65 years old, you don't have a disability, you don't live with kids under the age of 14, and you don't work at least 20 hours a week, you'll likely lose your SNAP benefits. Some people on SNAP tell me they don't know if they'll have enough money to afford groceries.
That's some bull.
Nelson Scott is on the verge of losing access to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. He is 38, not disabled, doesn't have any kids, doesn't go to school, and doesn't have a job. Those are just some of the reasons he is no longer eligible for SNAP benefits.
How much did SNAP help you?
It helped me a lot. I get $292 a month.
Scott tells me as a convicted felon, getting a job isn't easy.
I will get one if y'all give me one. Y'all be felony friendly and hire us.
I don't think nothing's funny about it.
Okay. I gotta choose my words carefully here, okay?
The N-word. You know what the N-word is, right?
It almost slipped. The ghetto in me almost came out. You know somebody that can get you a job, bro. Like it's like, man, there's some bullshit. I gotta work in order to get some food stamps.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, get off. You have no kids, which is surprising. All right.
Well, that he knows of.
That he knows of.
Or that he's willing to admit to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's always a black dude, right? It's always a black person that they look for this on purpose. All right.
This is one of those stories. There is no way the reporter, whoever edited the story, it might be the same person. You have to be cracking up while putting that together. You can't think that that's a serious sob story.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's a bush. Won't you hire us? Won't you? How many jobs did you apply to then with your sagging ass pants and shit?
I would like to see. Now, I don't know what his felony conviction is for. I don't know what the crime was. I understand. I get it.
Probably.
Felony child support evasion might be it. Yeah. I get that it probably is hard to find a job as a felon. Rightly so. Sorry if you're a convicted criminal. However, the SNAP reforms account for that variable. That is to say, if you, for whatever reason, can't find a part-time job that is willing to hire you, that's not the only way to qualify for the food stamps. You can go to school. He's not doing that. You can do work training. He's not doing that. You can straight up volunteer for 20 hours a week. You could work at a soup kitchen. You could do, trust me. And the thing about, there are, speaking of social welfare programs, there are plenty of programs devoted to the cause of helping felons find work. Go talk to them too. We got some
here.
Yeah. So, sorry. If you're in Nelson, receiving food stamps is bullshit. I'm sorry. That's the bullshit, is you collecting money each month. Sorry. Not sorry, really, but just
that's gonna be the new N word. This Nelson right over here. Don't want to work. He don't want to work. That's the thing. If y'all hire me, it's like, bruh. Excuse me, bruh. There are programs. I guarantee you. I worked with an ex-con who was part of a program too. They have stuff like that just to help people like that out. He just don't want to work. He want that free money.
Of course, and now he's
still
going
living with his mama.
Now he's going to have to find a way to contribute in some way. If you can't find gainful employment, you can still contribute in some way, and he's going to have to do that. So, okay. One other piece of news before we get into the National Guard shooting. Also been following the many cases of Somali fraud in Minnesota. And of course, the scale of that fraud is just astounding. There was the scam children's nutrition program, Feeding Our Future. That to date is the largest known COVID relief scam that exists. They just made up a bunch of fake kids and said they were feeding them sandwiches, but actually they were buying fancy boats and cars and houses. And okay, that was just one part of it. There's also been Medicaid fraud in housing assistance. Minnesota was the first state to pass housing assistance for drug addicts and people who need help finding housing. And Somalis just made up a bunch of fake businesses to cash in on that money. There was also Medicaid therapy for autistic children, and suddenly like 20% of Somali children became autistic and needed therapy, and Somalis cashed in on that fraudulently too. There are plenty of examples in the last, just 5 years alone. It is very realistic to estimate that Somalis in Minnesota have scammed the Minnesota taxpayer and the federal taxpayer, all of us, out of something like $1 billion in recent years. This is massive. And per a there was a recent report too. That was Chris Rufo in City Journal. A lot of that money is getting sent back to Somalia, and a lot of it is ending up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, the Somali ISIS, basically.
Yeah.
Now, one of those convicted in one of the fraud schemes is Abdi Fattah Yusuf. I don't know. We'll call him Nelson Yusuf to make it easier.
Sand Nelson.
Somali, yes. Sand Nelson was accused of running a fraudulent home healthcare business and fraudulently billing Medicaid for services not provided. A Minnesota jury convicted him in August. He collected something like $7 million under this scheme. And that wasn't until Thursday the 20th, as in a week and change ago, when a Hennepin County, Minnesota state judge overturned his conviction, saying the jury did not consider sufficient reasonable doubt.
It's extremely rare for a judge to reverse a jury's verdict in a criminal case. Jurors I spoke to today told me it was not a difficult decision to find Abdi Fattah Yusuf guilty in a Medicaid billing scheme, and they're surprised by this development.
At the August trial for Abdi Fattah Yusuf, the jury heard evidence that he ran his home health care company, Promise Health, out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home health care companies were supposedly located. Yusuf and his wife, Lol Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant, or PCA, scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. Despite the jury swiftly convicting Yusuf, Judge Sarah West last week decided they got it wrong. Judge West ruled that the state's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that she believed the state did not rule out other reasonable inferences. Jurors in the case can't believe the decision.
I'm shocked based off of all of the evidence that was presented to us and the obvious guilt that we saw based off of the said evidence. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. The deliberation took probably 4 hours at most. Based off of the state's evidence that was presented, I was beyond a reasonable doubt.
You suck.
Right.
I hope Trump deports you.
She's probably sucking that Somali dick. Let's be honest.
Jeez.
There's no way.
His wife's name is Lol Ahmed, by the way. It's not Lol Ahmed. It's Lol Ahmed.
Look, if she's Somali, she's probably ugly as shit, and that dude wanted a white bitch. Let's be honest here.
I don't know.
That's some real bullshit right there. That's the real bullshit.
But the judge issued a judgment of acquittal. But the state does have the ability to appeal, and the Attorney General's office says they will appeal. So the fraud here was so bad that even Keith Ellison is like, okay, all right, even I've seen enough. We're going to go get these Somali scammers. Now, curiously, in this case, I don't see any mention of federal prosecution for him. And Medicaid, of course, is a joint state-federal program. I would think that the federal government has jurisdiction here, too, to prosecute him for defrauding a federal benefits program. That would be another way to go get him if the appeal of this judge's decision doesn't work out. So it's not over for this guy. I doubt he will actually get away with it. But it's just what this represents in this state. If the scammers can scam to this degree, and there are at least some judges who are willing to let them off the hook like this, I mean, that's what. How deep can this state go? How bad can it actually get? You heard the jury foreperson there saying, I don't know what this judge thinks that she saw. I didn't read the totality of her decision in what she thinks the reasonable doubt is, but the jury foreperson didn't seem very confused, said we only took a few hours because it was very conclusive. According to prosecutors, this guy, he had no physical office space. So his business was, again, being run out of a mailbox that was assigned to other Somali scam businesses. They all just shared a mailbox to keep things efficient. He had no physical office space for this supposed business. He spent $20,000 on furniture. For what office space? Where did the furniture go? He spent $40,000 on cars. Okay. $80,000 on luxury clothing because you have to look impressive when you're doing honest Medicaid billing and all that. He again, it was about $7 million in government money that went to this business that effectively didn't exist. So we'll see where this case goes. Like I said, it's demoralizing because this judge is clearly highly questionable. Trump would use the word retarded, and I think that applies in many Minnesota contexts these days.
Well, but he's got Pam Bondi on his team, so
that's fair. Well, takes one to know one, I guess.
Yeah,
he is good at identifying retards in that way.
Yeah.
All right. In other problems caused by cultural enrichment, of course, right before Thanksgiving, this is Wednesday, just an absolute tragic disaster in D.C. Or maybe it's exactly what Senator Alyssa Slotkin and the 6 other members of Congress who called on CIA personnel to resist Trump, defy Trump orders. Maybe that's what happened. A CIA asset listened to them, walked into D.C. and started punishing those illegally deployed National Guard troops in D.C. But yeah, this guy, his name is... all of tonight's show is just impossible to pronounce names. Ramanullah Lakhanwal is this Afghan guy who, was a CIA asset and committed these murders. He's 29 years old. He's an Afghan national. He was part of a secret unit of Afghans who operated under CIA direction in Afghanistan, and they were trying to hunt down Taliban commanders, Al-Qaeda operatives, that sort of thing during the war. Mm-hmm. And then the U.S. withdraws from Afghanistan under Biden in 2021, and Lakhanwal was granted entry into the United States. And he lived here with a wife and 5 children in Washington State. He's actually still alive. I shouldn't use past tense. I mean, he didn't die in this incident. At least I don't think he did. He's not dead. They're still prosecuting him. He reapplied for asylum in 2024. He was granted asylum in April under Trump. So that's another interesting wrinkle in this story.
Okay.
Now, he reportedly he's just like Nelson. Actually, he's far beyond Nelson because he's been looking for work.
Yeah.
But his work permit has expired. Those close to him say he became more isolated in recent months and getting more financially desperate and was unable to pay his bills. So maybe that's a factor in the snap here. But he drove all the way from Bellingham, Washington to Washington, D.C. He approached National Guard soldiers at, speaking of things I can't pronounce, D.C. people will laugh at me. Is it Farragut Square? Farragut? What is the square in D.C.? Do you know D.C.?
I have no clue. I haven't been to
what's the
D.C.
name?
I've only been to D.C. once, and I was on like a college field trip.
Anyway, there's a square that's like 2-3 blocks northwest of the White House. And it's Farragut or Farragut Square, whatever it's called. And that's where this happened. He approaches them, he shoots them. He was neutralized by fire from fellow National Guard soldiers, and then he was arrested. So he approaches on the street. He immediately starts firing from a .357 revolver. First, he shot Sarah Backstrom, who's a 20-year-old West Virginia National Guard soldier. She has now died. He then took her gun and used it to continue shooting. He also hit Andrew Wolf, who is a member of the West Virginia Air National Guard. As of this morning, Wolf remains hospitalized in very serious condition. There is some witness video of the event. Now, I'm not going to show anything graphic, but you can see some of that initial moment. This is slowed down. You can see who I believe to be Lakhanwal, the attacker, approaching at some point here. But then you have National Guard member taking cover, fleeing around the corner. You can see another guy taking cover and returning fire. That's really the only video of the moment that I've seen. But yeah, what we saw there is Lakhanwal approaching, firing other soldiers, return fire. He's down. He's arrested. He's now charged with first-degree murder, assault, and more. D.C. prosecutor Janine Pirro says more charges are coming. Now, as far as why he did it, that's still under investigation. Could be radical Islamic motivations, would make sense. There were some reports that he yelled Allahu Akbar during the attack. Now, I've not seen video of that. I have not, as far as I know, that's not confirmed by police or investigators. So I would take that with a grain of salt, though people are saying it. But it's a possibility that that's a motivating factor. Could be just, I don't know, anger at what he thinks the U.S. owes him, I guess.
Didn't this happen before with another Afghanistan? He kind of just lost his mind.
I don't give a damn fuck.
You're thinking of that guy. Yeah. Yeah, there are a few. For people who are saying this is an isolated case, there are a few lately. And that guy who was pulled over in Virginia in the spring, a lot of his rant was what he thinks this country owes him for what he did in Afghanistan. Maybe there was some similar mentality with this guy. Hard to say. I don't know. But Trump at the time was not actually at the White House. He wasn't in D.C. at all. He was actually at Mar-a-Lago. He spent Mar-a-Lago he spent Thanksgiving at Mar-a-Lago. So he wasn't there. But Trump is now issuing a lot of policy changes in response. He's now going to deploy 500 more National Guard troops to D.C. These troops were already there for his existing law enforcement crackdown. Something like 2,200 troops were already there. Yeah. Trump also says he is suspending all immigration requests from Afghans and he's going to re-examine green cards issued to immigrants from 19 countries, including Afghanistan. So we're going to get serious about evaluating these people now that they're here. Okay.
Is this the Muslim ban 2.0?
It's the great Muslim reevaluation, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Trump also posted about pausing or even permanently stopping all migration from third world countries, though he didn't define the countries as far as I understand. He also says, or the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services director said on Friday, there's going to be a pause on all asylum applications, which of course has been abused in many contexts, the southern border, probably in this Afghanistan situation too. But stopping any more from coming, of course, doesn't do anything about those who are already here. Sure. Now, when the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan in 2001, the official number under this program that this guy was a part of is 75,000 Afghans who came to this country. Now, it was called Operation Allies Welcome. There was some extension of the program the year after, so it's way more than 75,000. It could be something like 200,000 Afghans who came to this country as a result of the Afghanistan withdrawal and the subsequent Operation Allies Welcome program that happened afterward. This particular guy, Lackenwall, he came through this program, Operation Allies Welcome, on September 8th, 2021. Now, the entire concept of the program is helping Afghans who helped the U.S. because helping Afghans who helped the U.S. Helped the Americans. If we left them there, the Taliban or ISIS-K or Al-Qaeda or whoever else would hunt them down and kill them. That's why they had to come here. That was the whole premise.
Yeah.
But we now know after this was done so hurried and on such a scale that there's no way you could actually vet all these people. Indeed, there's plenty of email communication that's since been released. You can see this on America First Legal. But even at the time, administration officials under Biden had no idea. Not only no idea who was coming, there are cases where they admit they don't even know people's names, let alone their background. Wow. And how are you supposed to know who exactly they are without with all the chaos in that country? It's just not possible. So even taken at its best, this program had a lot of problems. And even if this guy was, now I'll take the characterization of him being a CIA asset as correct, as accurate. But the thing is, even if he was working with the CIA, that doesn't guarantee that he was helping the U.S. I remember this case from the Bin Laden documentary I watched recently. It was on Netflix. You can still see it. But the CIA was working with a guy who they thought was their agent infiltrating the Taliban, infiltrating Al-Qaeda. They sent him out there to go get intel about all the people they're looking to hunt down. He comes back to their camp one day. This was Camp Chapman in 2009, and suicide bombs the place and kills 10 CIA personnel. Ooh. So even the people you think are helping you, who are they really serving? This would not be the first CIA asset in Afghanistan to betray the United States, if that's what happened here. And it looks like it is.
You think they will learn their lesson after the first time?
Well, that's why the documentary is so ridiculous. It's a bunch of chicks at the CIA saying, really? I don't know, he seemed really nice. We were totally shocked when he showed up and suicide bombed the place. We all thought he was cool. Okay. Now, Joe Biden certainly deserves the bulk of the blame for bringing these people in. He crafted the withdrawal. He crafted and administered the Afghan settlement, resettlement, of course.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
There was a classic moment this week when a reporter asked Trump, hey, why do you blame Biden so much? And Trump responded by asking her about her intelligence.
Why do you blame the Biden administration?
Because they let him in. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Because they came on a plane along with thousands of other people that shouldn't be here, and you're just asking questions because you're a stupid person.
Well,
I understand the frustration from his voice, though. I mean, like, they did get in here through the Biden era.
Yeah, they did. And she got off easy, by the way. He didn't even call her Peggy.
No.
Could have been much rougher for her. But yeah, it is mostly Biden's fault. Perfectly fair to say. Yeah. However, the Trump administration did review this guy themselves. They granted him asylum in April. That is part of the story. Okay, that has to be considered. And the mass resettlement of Afghans was broadly supported by both parties back then. This is a letter from June 2021. This is Dan Crenshaw, Republican congressman from Texas. And I'm not even bringing this to single out Dan Crenshaw. but it is an example of the political sentiment at the time. He wrote to the State Department telling the State Department to hurry up in processing and bringing these Afghans here. He said that processing their applications should be a top priority for the State Department. Now, if I want to be as fair as possible to Dan, he would say, well, yeah, process their applications and vet them thoroughly in the process, and that clearly didn't happen. My point is the pressure to hurry to move these Afghans who helped the United States and bring them to this country, that was not just a Joe Biden thing. That was a broad, that was supported by both parties. That was a uniparty thing, if you want to put it that way. So that has to be acknowledged too. Joe Biden deserves the bulk of the blame, but there are other people that were not pumping the brakes on this plan at all. They were saying, hurry up. Which brings us
here, though. Why not just...
Well, yeah, that's like, is there, even if you grant the premise that they helped the United States and they would be at risk from the powers that are taking over in Afghanistan, isn't there a way to create a safe home for them somewhere over closer to home for them?
Yeah. Like maybe one of the other allies of Afghanistan? I don't know. Just keep them over there.
Didn't work out that way. Now they live in Bellingham, Washington, and they drive all the way across the country to go shoot people. That brings us to the absolute worst takes about the shooting. Now, over on MSNBC, or MS Now, as it's now rebranded, Joshy.
What? When did that happen?
Recent. It's now MS Now, within the last few weeks or month or so.
What a stupid-ass name.
Yeah, I don't get it. But then again, they're trying to recreate their public image. Reporter Ken Delanian said, well... You know, there's so much controversial ICE operation and ICE deployment going on around the country. Who knows? Maybe the shooter just saw some uniforms and he thought that his targets were ICE related, and that's why he did it.
But of course, you know, there's so much controversy happening in the United States right now with ICE, who are also wearing uniforms and wearing masks. And so there's, you don't know, people walking around with uniforms in an American city. There are some Americans that might object to that. And so apparently this shooting has happened.
Apparently this shooting has happened. Breaking news.
He was really struggling trying to put those words together. Is there shit clogging up your throat or something, bro?
But yeah, that's obviously not what happened. Now, he was reporting on the story as it was happening, so there's a little bit of benefit of the doubt due there. But even still, what you're saying, like, let's say that it was ICE agents. Oh, well, you know, the deployment of ICE agents is controversial. So, I mean, I get it why people shoot at them. People don't like ICE. Oh,
how long was that drive? How long is the drive from Washington to Washington?
Days. It's Google Map it. It's got to be like at least 24 hours road time. I bet, maybe more.
That sounds about right. So the entire time he was just seeing men in uniforms on his drive there.
Well, yeah. That's why did he that? Yeah. If you maybe he was so mad about the National Guard deployment, I guess, but. I don't know. Like, why did he drive as far as he drove? That is a great question. I have no idea.
What was he hoping to accomplish? I think I'm going to throw another conspiracy theory, play devil's advocate on the left side, right? Because you said that Trump is going to deploy more National Guards to the White House, right? Or
to DC in response to this. Yeah.
Enough this might end up saying is that this was all a ploy so he can further amass power, right? By increasing the number of National Guardsmen over there so he can protect his power base or something like that.
So he's not just a double agent for ISIS or Al-Qaeda or the Taliban. He's a double agent for Trump. He's a triple agent.
And if he accomplished his mission, his family would be taken care of, obviously, and everything. I'm just trying to think like they do, which is really hard because it's hard not making sense. I don't know. But
I've seen that take too, which is like, oh, these people helped us in Afghanistan. We bring them here. We don't do anything for them. And then they just get enraged and they say,
I don't give a damn fuck.
And they pull out a gun and they start shooting people. And we've seen a couple examples of that. Now, what this country owes you is the opportunity for I wouldn't say that we owe. I wouldn't say that we owe them what we're giving them. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
What we're giving them is an opportunity for a new life, but that doesn't mean that everything is going to be handed to you. So if you accept the premise that we owe them based on the sacrifice they made for us, yeah, I agree with your prior point that maybe there are ways we can handle that don't involve creating massive amounts of risk of terrorism for our country, which is importing 200,000 people in that short amount of time. It's just impossible to actually evaluate who's safe and who's not. And clearly a lot of them are not safe.
And I bet you not all 200,000 have contributed to whatever we were doing over there.
Yeah, well, that's the question too. What does helping mean? Because we've seen people supposedly helping go and blow up the CIA base. Although, given the CIA track record, blowing up the base might actually be helpful. I don't know.
I'm just trying to figure out the angle behind all this. Why bring them here and why need it to be done so quickly?
Yeah, well, it's just the classic. Is it stupidity or is it malice? Are these people retarded, Tim Walz, or are they... I
have to chalk it up as malice and slight mental retardation. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, of course, there's the meme response, too. Joshy, don't forget the real victims in this case. It's Afghans who will now experience Islamophobia or maybe immigration case review. Here's some Al Jazeera reporting to that effect.
One group who works with those who've been resettled says the president's verbal attacks worry them.
The shooting on Wednesday, unfortunately, this tragic incident allows President Trump to use this as a pretext to demonize, to vilify, and to come after our community. And it's rooted in bigotry, and it's rooted in Islamophobia and racism.
You sound like a group of terrorists that need to be deported.
I don't see a bunch of Christians, Jews, Hindus, or Buddhists running over people during a parade, stabbing people to death at a gay bar, blowing up people and all this other stuff, or beheading people just because they don't believe in your religion. I think there's a good reason to be afraid of Islam. You guys do have you have a good track record of being violent.
Well, that is to the extent Islamophobia, if you want to call it that, is a real prevailing public perception. The question is, what causes it? Now, did people read Trump tweets, or did they observe the behavior in the way that you're talking about? Yeah,
I got eyes that work.
Now, speaking of eyes that work, the other take is that there's no pattern here. Now, do I have reliable, sound crime data to support these points? I don't. This is anecdotal. You decide if you think there's a trend or not. The point, the take you'll hear everywhere. Oh, it's not all Afghans. Not all. It's just, this is a one-off crazy guy. It's not really a one-off crazy guy. You may call it rare, but he's not isolated. And he's not even isolated this year. Remember, you brought this guy up in the spring, this Afghan guy who was pulled over in Fairfax County, Virginia. His name was Jamal Wali. And yeah, during that routine traffic stop, I forget the reason for the stop, but it was perfectly valid. And police officers asked him for his documentation and his proof of insurance, and he said,
I don't give a damn fuck.
And he added that he should have fought with the Taliban. That's what he said. I should have fought with the Taliban. You people are trying to kill me. And he pulled out a gun.
The fuck out.
Yeah. And he shot at the cops and they shot him dead. Likewise. Now the thing about him is had been here for 10 years. He didn't come under the program that this guy did, but he was an interpreter in Afghanistan who worked with the U.S. military. He had been here for 10 years, similarly with a wife and kids. And 10 years after the fact, he's still full of rage. He still thinks we owe him a bunch of stuff. He's shooting at our police, and he gets shot dead, having the effect of abandoning his family.
Yeah. I think
when does the assimilation kick in? When does the appreciation happen?
It happens by force, right? You have to do it by force. We can't be nice. We're past the point where we have to be nice about it now.
It's like, if guns are drawn, there's no more being nice.
Yeah. The only way you can get into this country is that you have to be assimilated. It says, well, I don't want to assimilate. So, all right, you can stay where you're at then.
Yeah.
If this country is so bad, why are you here?
Well, I assume he could have gone back to Afghanistan at any point.
Nobody would have stopped him.
Yeah. But anyway, well, I guess he would say that they're going to kill me there. But now he's saying, right before he died, he said, I should have joined the Taliban. What happens if you go back to Afghanistan and say, you know what, I was wrong. You guys were right. I'm Mr. Taliban now. Yeah. Just this week, another Afghan national admitted under Operation Allies Welcome, the same program that let this shooter Lakenwall into the country. This guy was arrested after posting TikTok videos indicating he was building a bomb to use in the Fort Worth area in Texas. His name is
stupid.
We'll see if I can nail this one. Mohammed Dawood Alukoze.
Bingo.
I think that's
Brother,
it.
these names tonight, they're about as jacked up as these fake names that black people give to their kids.
There aren't even apostrophes in these. They're not that complicated. What did I saw one in a football game the other day. I was like, I can't remember it. But you know how everything is like Sean's and Quan's?
Yes.
Deshaun Quan, Rashawn Quan.
Rashawn.
Yeah, just
Jaquan.
it was so many Sean's and Quans all, and Avion, like Travion's. His name was like Sean.
Yeah.
I can't even, like Sean Quan Travion or something. That was his name. And there were apostrophes in there. I don't know.
They add the apostrophes because they want to be fancy. And it makes no sense.
But yeah, this guy also came here through Operation Allies Welcome in 2021. He became a lawful permanent resident in 2022. Now he's arrested for making a terroristic threat in Texas. And this will not be the last of these attacks or attempted attacks committed by resettled Afghans. If there is a crackdown, and it sounds like Trump is going to do that, and I'm not saying he shouldn't. I think he should, given the threat to public safety, of course. But if there are attempted deportations, if there are other legal crackdowns, you're going to enrage the radical people in this group even more. And I fear this is just the start of it, unfortunately. So prepare accordingly and keep your eyes peeled and make sure you're prepared to defend yourself, your family, and others. I don't think this problem is going away anytime soon.
No, and it's starting to sound planned with the way this thing went down.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway. Before we get to the top of the hour, I want to talk the other big news of the week, which is Trump once again tweeted a bad word. I think the most offensive thing about this Trump post, again, this is Thanksgiving Day or the night of. Anyway, the idea of Trump spending some of Thanksgiving, I don't know, on the toilet typing this out or whatever he does. The offensive thing is not the word, it's the grammar. Because look at this mountain of text without any paragraph breaks.
Oh my God, bro.
Brother.
That's unacceptable.
That is unacceptable. What the fuck is this guy's problem? You get people to type this shit for you, man.
Yeah. This is not.
Look, anyway. I'm a bit of everybody knows I'm a bit of a grammar Nazi. Looking at this hurts my eyes and it just makes me not want to read it.
Where's Nelson? I need to pull that sound clip. That's some bullshit. Okay. This is some bullshit right here. But it's not about the sentence structure or the paragraph structure.
Yes, the fuck it is. If you want me to read what you have to say, it better make sense, and you need to write it in a way that I can read it, man.
Well, lucky for you and everybody else, I've paraphrased what Trump said. And he said, he says, "Happy Thanksgiving. There are 53 million foreign people here. They're creating lots of problems. The Somalis in Minnesota are scamming, and the seriously retarded governor of that state, Tim Walz, does nothing." Okay, seriously retarded. And we're all supposed to be very offended because you can't say the R word, even though it's perfectly applicable. Being retarded is Tim Walz's greatest defense for the state of that state, actually, because if he's not retarded, that means he's competent. And what's happening there is at some level due to intent. That makes him a very bad person, a very evil person. So embrace the retardation, Tim Walz. It's the way to defend yourself. Yeah. But in response, Tim Walz issued a statement. He says he is sending his friends after Donald Trump.
I've become friends with school shooters.
Actually, he said he tweeted, "Release the MRI results," which is a hilarious response. Now, Joshy, I assume you don't have the context for what he means. So without the context, what do you think he means?
Did Trump have some kind of medical exam or something?
Oh, see, you got it right. Dang it. Because not that you were supposed to get it wrong. But when I read that without the context, I thought, release the MRI results. What is this, to prove that you're not retarded? Did you get an MRI?
That's what I thought at first. I thought he said, because I had to read it twice. I thought it said release the MRI results. And I was like,
yeah.
So you want to prove that you're not retarded?
Yeah. That's how it read to me. But you're right that Trump actually had some kind of MRI in October, and Tim Walz thinks this is all a big cover-up for some sort of Trump mental decline. In fact, Tim Walz thinks that Trump is retarded, and he's keeping it a secret from all of us. We want to know what the MRI was for, and Trump won't tell us.
It's like his little tax thing. I can't, release the tax forms or what?
There was a big scandal about, Trump's tax documentation, Now, we do know that Trump had some blood circulation issues. MRIs can be used to scan clots, blood flow, that sort of thing. Maybe it's related to that. Yeah. He had something like a DVT, although it wasn't a DVT. Anyway, Tim Walz. Wait, what'd you say?
No, I was looking at his age. He's almost 80 years old. Holy shit.
Trump, yeah. Yeah, Trump's an old man. Dude. So Walz appeared on Meet the Press this morning, and he said that Trump's use of the R word demonizes our kids.
The seriously blank governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing either through fear, incompetence, or both. What is your response to President Trump, Governor?
Donald Trump insulting me is a badge of honor. Using that term is just so damaging. It's hurtful. We have fought 3 decades to get this out of our schools. Kids know better than to use it. But look, this is what Donald Trump has done. He's normalized this type of hateful behavior and this type of language. We have someone at midnight throwing around slurs that demonize our children. At the same time, he's not solving any of the problems.
Well, are you retarded?
Yeah, but you are retarded. That's the thing. And retardation doesn't just stop at children.
No, he wasn't talking about retarded kids. He was just talking about you. Had nothing to do with the kids. But I love the phrasing in the reporting. The seriously blank governor. Now, we are just a nation of giant pussies that you can't even say, you can't quote the word on a news broadcast. The seriously blank governor. You'll notice even in this reporting from Daily Beast, not that I would expect quality journalism from this outlet, but look, they now I know that even in the title of this show on YouTube, I starred the word because I know that YouTube can't. So I'm guilty of doing this myself to try to like get around YouTube's bullshit. Yeah, but I'll say I'm like Tucker Carlson. We'll talk about that in a moment. Retard. Look how brave I am in saying the word. But in the reporting, they put a red block over the word. You can't see it. You can't read it.
They want to talk about children.
But I forgot to grab the reporting, but you can take my word for it. Trust me, bro. Look it up. Google it. I thought, speaking of retarded, the word retarded, I noticed a correlation. Tim Walz says we've tried to get this word out of our schools. The correlation is that as the use of the word retarded has declined under Tim Walz's tenure, academic performance has also declined. Okay? I looked it up, and academic performance statewide in Minnesota, K through 12, reading and math, has declined, stagnated at best, but declined over the course of his tenure, specifically 2019 through 2025. And you'll find all kinds of headlines about how academic performance among students in the Minnesota public school system has not recovered from the pandemic, they say. And I'm sure that the bullshit response to that virus did cause a lot of failure in academic performance or decline in academic performance because we did a lot of retarded stuff, like putting kids on Zoom class. That's why that happened. But under the educational philosophy of this former teacher and coach, you can't say the word retarded, and the kids have become more retarded. So let's make Minnesota great again, bring back calling people retards, and you'll see excellent student performance once again. Everyone gets called a retard at least once a day. Suddenly the kids can read. Suddenly they can do math. Suddenly they got thicker skins. Everybody's ready to go.
I do think this is malicious, though, how the kids can't read or write, because a stupid population is a very easily controlled population.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So Tim Walz himself might be retarded, but the powers that be may have him there just to make everybody else retarded so they can better control him.
Yeah.
That's my tinfoil for today.
Well, weaponized Tim Walz retardation is certainly possible.
Yeah.
But speaking of these unsayable slurs, I mentioned Tucker Carlson. Tucker had a show with Piers Morgan, and there was this hilarious exchange this week. Now, Tucker challenged Piers on UK speech laws, and he cited a case where a woman was beaten by her boyfriend or some male companion of hers.
Yeah.
And in talking about the beating that she had endured, she texted a friend and called the guy a faggot. That faggot beat me up. She said something like that in a text. And she got prosecuted for hate speech. And so Tucker asked Piers Morgan to use the word faggot, and Piers declined.
She gets beaten up by her boyfriend. He beats her up. She goes to the hospital. And she texts.
Whoops, sorry. Let me
she
get
gets
that
beaten
again.
up by her boyfriend. He beats her up. She goes to the hospital. And she texts someone, a buddy of hers, a friend of hers, a girlfriend of hers, and describes the man who beat her up and sent her to the hospital as a, quote, faggot. It's a faggot. She's arrested and convicted of a hate crime. The guy who beat her up is not arrested or convicted because she used the word faggot. She's arrested, and the guy who punched her in the face was not.
Well, I don't know that story. If it's exactly
Daily Mail, baby.
Okay.
Pictures of her and everything.
I'm not doubting it. I'm just saying I need to look into it.
Would you say the word faggot on camera?
No.
Why?
Because I
you don't want to get arrested, do you?
Doesn't want to be arrested.
Because it's so harmful to people?
No.
Is it like gay bashing? What's wrong with that?
No, actually, my whole issue with the whole trans debate, for example, is you don't need to slide into actually saying derogatory stuff about trans people to make the point that women's rights should be protected. You don't need to.
Well, I agree.
So what? I don't believe.
No, but it's a magic word.
I don't believe in needlessly sneering.
Well, I'm not smearing anybody. I just think.
But why would you use that word?
Faggot? Yeah, I just did.
Yeah, but would you?
Faggot.
Okay, but why?
And I'm using it because you're not allowed to. Because you're
I'm allowed to.
Go ahead.
I don't want to.
Say I love gay people. Faggot.
Would you say now? I apologize that I had to bleep that for YouTube compliance. Yeah. It's something of a UK police code over there. I will thank Tucker Carlson for his contribution to the soundboard, though.
Faggot.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
I guarantee you that if YouTube allowed us to say the N-word, I would be dropping it a lot.
Well, we can talk about it. We can figure out. It's Nelson, remember?
Yeah.
But you say, yes, we do have to call people faggots. Or you do have to use slurs in the context of transgenderism, challenging Pierce. Why do you say that?
Do you hear what they call us?
The trans people, or just any? Okay.
The opposition
they call
has
us
no
cis.
problem. Cis.
Yeah,
no,
cisgender.
Only faggots say that, but but the thing they call us every horrible name under the sun, and they get away with it. So yeah, we should call them faggots, retards, and I
Hitler.
Can't drop the N-bomb.
Yeah. Well, that's the last frontier. Eventually, we'll get there. But
damn,
to your point,
a lot of pussies, man.
I get what Pierce is saying that pure insult is not substitute for reasoned argument, and that's true. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But the other side of it is, like, people want to act like if you use a bad word or you call a name, everything you say is invalidated. No, it just means it's not a substitute for a good argument. However, if you make a good argument that is also funny, has a little bit of a joke to it, maybe even an insult, that is irresistible. People are the most persuaded by that sort of presentation. What's the saying? Milo used to say it all the time. You wrap a joke, you wrap the truth in a good joke, and it's irresistible, something like that.
Yeah.
That's 100% true. That's where use of the words is applicable. It's not valid or persuasive to rely solely on insults, but it has its place in supplementing the entertainment value of the argument. And yes, entertainment value matters. It does.
Look at Bloodsport debates. I watch those a lot. They go hard at each other.
Yeah, people love it, and I understand why they do. I mean, think about what made Xbox Live so entertaining. It was partly the game, but it was partly
also the
joining an Xbox Live lobby and just hearing over and over. Now, I did look at the story, too, that Tucker was referencing, Daily Mail, November 18th. It looks to be legitimate. I don't know the entirety of this case, but his citation of the reporting appears to be correct. This woman, Elizabeth Kinney, she's 34 years old, single mom, some sort of home health care worker. She got beaten up, called the guy a faggot in a text message. She was charged and convicted for malicious communications, and she was sentenced to community service. So she's suffering the same fate that Nelson is. She actually has to work. And based on these photos, I wonder what that community service is going to be, man. All right. Lucky you.
Brother, she is a massive whore.
If you get Elizabeth Kinney's community service in the UK.
Women who do that, they're a whore. She's a hoe, bro. Look at her.
Well, at least she's based on the faggots.
Those eyebrows aren't even drawn right.
All right.
Let me be nice.
Anyway, now you mentioned the use of the never word. I didn't watch the entirety of the Tucker interview. I had read that people said that there was an N-word challenge in there that was not accepted. I don't know if that's true or not. I'll have to check. But I love this tweet this week. Tucker said faggot. Trump said retarded. Who is going to complete the RFN trilogy. Who is going to combine the R, F, and rings and say it?
The N-word. You know what the N-word is, right?
But you know who already entered that frontier, Joshy?
That Joker dude?
No, he got arrested before he said it, didn't he?
I have no clue.
I can't remember how that played out. We've talked about him a few times recently. You know who did? Shiloh Hendricks.
Why don't you have the boss to
That's
say
right.
Fuck you, nigger.
She's already there. We don't have to talk about who's going to take on the final boss. She's being prosecuted. Speaking of unjust speech prosecutions, we like to think that's only what those silly redcoats do. No, we're doing that in this country right now. She is facing charges for disorderly conduct, one for each N dropped in Rochester, Minnesota. And that will be the trial of the year next August, Shiloh Hendricks.
So this took place in the UK, that woman, right?
That's, somewhere
Isn't that
in
what
the
they
UK.
call their cigarettes?
Yeah, but she was calling a guy a faggot. Yeah, in a homophobic way.
I get the context, but still, she could have said, well, that's what we call our cigarettes here, mate.
That's not the defense she went with. I don't know. Anyway, before we get to the interview, let's catch up on some super chat, and then we'll get into our interview segment.
All
Let
right.
me refresh here. Over on Rumble, Yakko, 1977. I didn't serve in Afghanistan, but from what I've heard, even the Afghans who were, quote, on our side, you had to keep an eye on them. They shot a lot of our guys in the back. Friendly fire isn't. Yeah, I've heard stories about... Of course, my brother was in Afghanistan, saw a lot of stuff in Afghanistan. I've heard some stories about even the on your side guys. And a lot of the same stuff. So thank you, Yakko. Unfortunately, we're learning that lesson the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Newbie of Death is making me do it, man. As always, if you read this,
you are gay, LMAO.
Thank you, Newbie of Death. John 9A, where is the conservative outrage at women being placed in harm's way in the DC military deployment? Not 15 years ago, this was not allowed, and many spoke against women in all roles. You know, that's a fair point on this as well. Not just the question of what sort of society allows their women to be put at risk in this way, but the risk that it created for others insofar as, again, this guy shot her first, took her gun, and fired upon others with it. So one might assume that he picked her out for that reason, like easy target first.
Well, yeah.
Or perceived easiest target first.
Typically they are, right? And then the thing is that the reason why you don't really hear a lot of conservative outrage on this, even Tucker kind of admitted this, a lot of conservatives have moved towards this egalitarian type of society, right? Like, oh, women can do it too. I believe in women's rights. It says, dude, I would not have women in the military unless it's a support role. I don't like them as officers. I don't want them as firefighters. I don't want them as pilots. And it's not because I'm being mean, but that shit's stressful. Imagine being shot at.
Well, yeah, it's a question of most capable for the job, which a lot of people dispute. They don't like the implication that maybe women are not the most capable for these jobs. But the other side of it is any respectable society protects its women. They don't put them in harm's way intentionally.
Just because you want, and like, we believe women can do this too. But why would you want to? Why would you want to imagine sending women off to go fight in the Middle East? And so I'm not gonna. Well, you kind of already see the implications. What if they're captured, right? Yeah. That's what the Japanese did to the Koreans.
And the Chinese. They did it to all the other Asians.
Yeah. You don't want that kind of horror on you.
Anyway, John, good point. And that's something I probably should have talked about a little bit more, but I think you're exactly right. There are questions to be asked about that in this context. Your friendly neighborhood fed. I was down at Walmart to pick up an order for my wife. I waited 20 minutes because speaking of the words you can't say, where's the button? I'll get it someday. Three of those were cashing their welfare checks. Then I'm told they don't even order pickups at customer service, just money service. So they were all there. Wait, they're trying to cash their welfare checks. They don't even do order pickups they don't even do order pickups at customer service, just money services. Okay, so you were trying to pick up an online order. You were behind these guys cashing their welfare checks. It took forever. Then you got up there and you didn't even get what you were there for. That's how I felt down at Staples trying to do a scan behind many illegals who could not speak English. And eventually they just rage quit their copy jobs because they couldn't get them done. And they didn't understand the English prompts on the machines. And the people at Staples who could have helped them were busy helping other illegals who also don't speak English, and they're trying to communicate using translation services on their phones. That's exactly how I felt. So I sympathize with you, man. Sorry to hear it.
It's got to be very tiresome to be a stereotype. I look around whenever I go to, Walmart's the prime example. Whenever I go to Walmart or anything, I look at people. I like to people watch, and I'd be wondering to myself, why be a stereotype?
Well, as much as I would like to condemn them, we all are in our own way. I'm a guy who hates the government wearing a Hawaiian shirt. What am I? I'm a stereotype.
I don't know what stereotype I would fit. I guess the gay faggot.
Well, at least you're not a Nelson. I mean, the worst things.
Yeah, I'm not a Nelson. That's a good point.
Neighborhood Fed also says, like remittances, etc. I had to go back to, they don't do this addition or more on the story. I had to go back to my car and go around to get my order. At least it appeared Dad was in the picture for all those families. All I have to say is I don't even like racism. Oh, where's that button? Hold on. I got so many I can't even navigate them anymore. This one.
I don't even like racism.
I'm glad you're intelligent.
That's acceptable.
That she's the same lady.
That's unacceptable. I don't even like racism.
She's a classic, right behind LaDonna.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me hop over to YouTube and Tippy, and then we'll get into the interview.
Gotcha.
Long Dung John, Matt and I once made Thanksgiving dinner. He brought the turkey, and I stuffed it.
Faggot.
Thank you. Orthodox Christian Andrew. Joshy boy, come down to St. John Cassian in Birmingham. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, as I explained before, I'm a catechumen under the Orthodox Church. I'm assuming that's an Orthodox church down where he is, and I might actually want to go check it out. I go to a Greek Orthodox church right now, so we don't call it church service, call it parish.
Thank you, Orthodox Christian Andrew, for that invitation. Esoterica Unbound. California is desperately seeking some explanation for all those fatal truck accidents. Yeah, well, they can't seem to figure it out. Maybe they'll eventually crack the code. Long Dong John also says Kumar crashes into White Castle. Curry and... okay, these are names for the bit. Like, what could we do for the intro if we wanted to make some kind of bit about Indian truck crashes? Yeah, Kumar crashes into White Castle. Curry and crash of the week. Gavin Newsom's trucking madness. I like this one. Poop, poop, beep, beep.
Bingo.
Raj did it again. Okay, poop, poop, beep, beep. I think I can work with that. Injured guardian, not your fault. Jury 4, man. He's male, damn it. Did I say woman or did someone else say woman? Maybe I can't remember. But yeah, he was a guy. This was in the Somali fraud case. The jury foreman spoke to the news outlet.
Oh, okay.
But I can't remember if I maybe said woman by accident.
No,
or whatever the mistake was.
I thought I heard jury number 4 or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, he was the foreman. Yeah, the guy who led the jury. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unique name. Did you see the Minnesota DHS post on X berating Walz? I heard about it, but I didn't read it. It was something like, dang it, where the hell's that button? Oh wait, it's right here. Their post was something like,
"What, are you retarded?"
It's his own state is turning on him, I think. Purpose of the ages. I have a business operating out of my home with remote employees like the Somalis. I use a P.O. box for my address so that my home is not a business liability. I also expense vehicle purchases. What is the criticism exactly? It's possible that you could do that. Now, I have a P.O. box for my business too. However, I'm skeptical that he was doing Medicaid billable services and making purchases like furniture.
Yeah.
Where's the furniture going? Maybe. I mean, In the absence of the massive fraud schemes that are going on in that state, maybe. It's possible that you could operate a business out of a P.O. box in a way that is, there's no physical space needed at all, ever. Mm-hmm. However, given the context of the massive scams that are going on in that state by this particular community, I just have a hard time believing it was all above board. But I appreciate your devil's advocacy.
There's no devil's advocacy in that. He was convicted.
And well, that's the problem. But the other thing, purpose of the ages, are there other people also operating businesses out of your P.O. box? That seems like a kill shot for their case. Maybe you can explain to me why that's not weird. Anyway, but as always, it's important to consider the reasonable doubt. Maybe that judge is right on. and we just have no idea. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to call it there.
I'll have to just circle back with you.
And I will get back with you guys with the rest of these super chats at the end of the show. I appreciate your patience, but I don't want to wait on this guest segment any further because I think it's a really interesting one. My guest tonight is Jason Vukovich. As I mentioned, he's also known as the Alaskan Avenger. And as you'll hear, he took vigilante actions against convicted child predators in 2016. He did several years in prison for it. Thanks to listener Tim, who suggested Jason as a guest. That referral made this segment happen. It's about 33 minutes. We'll catch you on the other side.
A man who called himself an avenging angel was in court today. 41-year-old Jason Vukovich is accused of violently assaulting men with a history of sexual offenses involving children.
According to charging documents, he told police he found information about his victims on the state's sex offender registry. Names, pictures, addresses, it's all there online.
He said, I'm an avenging angel. I'm going to mete out justice for the people you hurt.
Welcome back. My guest tonight is Jason Vukovich, the Alaskan Avenger, a man who spent several years in prison after committing violent acts of vigilante justice against child predators. Jason, thanks for making time for me.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
So I'm new to the story of the Alaskan Avenger. I had a listener email me about it a couple months back, sent me the Count Dankula Mad Lad on your story, which I'm sure you've seen, but I know you talked to him at some point.
Yeah.
But I think to understand this story properly, you have to start at the very beginning. I'm sure it's probably a long story, but I want to start from the top. What is the story of the Alaskan Avenger?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you the abridged beginning of this story. I was born and raised in Alaska to a non-denominational Christian family. And these people were in Indonesia, New Zealand, Singapore, Taiwan, as was I, up until I was 3 or 4 years of age. And when we returned to Alaska, my natural father ran away with one of the girls in the youth group. And my mother soon met another person in the church. And within a year or so, she was married to him. And it took about, 6 or 8 or 10 months for him to start displaying what he actually was. And that was a abusive sexual predator. And he started molesting and physically abusing my brother and I.
And you are how old at this point?
I was 5 or 6 years old when this started. And this person was a very large person, 6'2", 300 plus pounds. And my brother and I also, I was always a little husky kid. The punishment, and they believed in corporal punishment. This was something the church preached and endorsed. We started out with sticks and then progressed to belts. And then he had a custom made 2x4 with a 2-handled grip on it and holes drilled in it. And physical abuse was consistent and terrible. And then he started down this pathway of sexual abuse with my brother and I, which lasted. And my brother was 3 years older than I am. So this progressed for a number of years. And my brother, and we never said anything. We didn't know to say anything. People in the church never asked. It's just one of those environments where that sort of thing is covered up and pushed under the rug. And at a certain point, when I was about 12, my brother is 15 years old and he ran away from home, eventually encountered the police, and he proceeded to divulge all the abuse to the police. So they came and arrested my stepfather. And the church we were going to at the time provided the attorney, and certainly were very aggressive in telling my brother and I that we needed to forgive him and to keep our mouths shut. All of this led to a conviction. I believe his name is Larry Fulton, and I believe he was convicted of second-degree abuse and molestation of minors. Incidentally received a 3-year suspended prison sentence. And so, these things from my childhood, surviving these things, planted a seed in my heart. And it took a long time for that seed to actually blossom into the crimes that I have some notoriety for now. But also what it does as a young child, I can tell you now, hindsight, when a person is beating you with a 2x4 and molesting you, what it does is ingrain into your subconscious that you're worthless, that you have no value. So as a young man, eventually I ran away from home. I was 15, because the courts, in all of their wisdom, after his conviction, after his suspended sentence, they sent him right back to the house. And so I was living in the same exact house with the guy that we had just, in his words, ratted on. And that causes a lot of friction and pressure in the household. Also, I had reached an age and a stage in my development where I think he realized that beating me any further or coming in to molest me any further was not an option anymore, because I just physically was getting too big. And I climbed out the window and ran away when I was about 13, 14 years old. And never went back. Have never looked back.
So why do you think the justice system in this town in Alaska went so light on him? Was it corruption? Was it just not trying to avoid a big news story? What do you think motivated what ended up being a light sentence?
Yeah. So, experiential knowledge tells me it's not just the justice system in Alaska. It's the justice system in general.
Okay.
And I'm one of those simple as genius thinkers. And to someone like myself, systems don't arrive by accident. They're designed and implemented with purpose. And so time and time again, different places I've been in custody, different cases that I've ran myself. When you see child predators consistently receive light sentences, early parole, and so forth by each and every justice system in different states. Now, there are, of course, exceptions to that rule here and there, but in general, what I've come to realize is our justice system was designed by people who wanted to facilitate further child abuse. That's just what it is. And granted, some of the people in power now may not be conscious of the reasoning or the mindset behind the people that design these systems. They're just operating what was in place when they arrived there. However, I see it time and time and time again. And a good example is my own case. Eventually, I was convicted for assaulting 3 of these guys. And in the end, my prison sentence was 3 times longer for assaulting child predators than these child predators received for assaulting their victims combined. So by way of example, one of them had molested a 10-month-old baby. He did less than 2 years in prison. One of them hard-R'd his own daughter, and he did 2 years in prison. The other one was a child pornographer. He did 3 years in prison. So you compare that to my 23-year prison sentence for assaulting them, and this tells you very plainly out in the open where the justice system is when it comes to child predators, where if someone has the audacity to track down and assault people that molest children, it's not an accident that my sentence for assaulting child predators was 3 times longer than the guys that assault kids.
Yeah, so what you're describing there is the 2016 cases that became the Alaskan Avenger name, the idea of finding these convicted pedophiles who had received light sentences, and you actually physically attacked them. And I want to get into that part of the story, the reason you have the name the Avenger. How did this idea come to be? What were the methods, as in how did you find these people? Why did you select the people you did select? I want to know all the details on this.
Yeah. So, it's an interesting thing because I had reached a place in my life where it's one of those results of childhood abuse and trauma. One of the things that happens is it causes you to be sensitive to other people that are being abused or traumatized. And I found throughout the course of my life that I would be naturally gravitating towards people in that scenario that needed some help or assistance. So certainly the state of Alaska was not the first time I had interceded on behalf of someone that was in that sort of position. Just typically, it didn't arrive at a big arrest and notoriety and things like that. But I came back to Alaska after being involved in a life of crime. I was a thief. I was a drug addict. I was a liar. And the seeds of that behavior, of course, were childhood abuse. But I came back to Alaska, and it didn't take much more than about a year for people in the community who knew me to approach me and start telling me, there's this guy that's trafficking girls. There's this guy who's selling drugs to kids. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was coming back to this location. Maybe it was recognizing just how deep the darkness is in this particular state, which it's worth mentioning. The state of Alaska has the #1 highest domestic violence and child abuse rate in the nation. Alaska's #1. And it just blossomed. That seed from my childhood blossomed inside of me. And I really felt like I had to do something about it. I had to take actions. And so it began with a woman who was a mother telling me that someone had been molesting her daughter. And she gave me the name. And I didn't want to just be a point and shoot ballistic missile. So I recall pulling up the registry and finding this guy's name and prior convictions. And I was like, damn, okay, well, this is probably valid information. And I went and knocked on his door. And it's kind of an interesting thing. People that do this, trust me, if I'm knocking on your door and it swings open, they know exactly what time it is immediately, bro. And they would step to the side and I would just walk right past them into their home. And usually I would give them a pretty terse speech, pretty terse doctrinal lesson on why abusing kids is not acceptable while administering corporal punishment. And by that, I mean, I would beat the shit out of them and tell them, you're not going to be abusing kids in this state anymore, et cetera, so forth.
So you went in and you explained your motivation right away. Absolutely. There was no mystery. Is there anything that they could have said to you to change your mind or maybe stop the attack from happening? Was there an answer that you were looking for, or was it just a declaration of, I am here to do this and this is happening?
That's a really great question. Interestingly, what I have found is common amongst these types of people: narcissistic, egotistical, selfish people as a whole. And I've encountered quite a few of them. That's not a broad statement. That is through experience. I have never met one that was humble and apologetic and repentant that was quick to display the things they've done to remunerate their community or their victims for their actions. Not a single one. So I don't know that any of them have it in them to produce something that shows and demonstrates that they actually have changed. Do your studies, study your science, and you'll find there isn't a psychologist on the face of this earth that says they can counsel a child predator from stopping having those compulsions. That treatment doesn't exist. So what I didn't do was show up with a mask or a gun or a knife. I wanted them to see me and see my face and hear what I had to say. And, granted, a couple of these assaults escalated over time. But for the most part, I was using my hands, for lack of a better term, just to open hand, forehand, backhand, fist, beat them up, and express my rage and frustration at who they were and what compelled them on a daily basis.
Can you explain to me what the deal with the theft is? Because I think this case is such a fascinating... There's a lot to discuss here about the philosophy of vigilante justice, and I want to get into that in a moment.
Yeah.
But as I'm reading about... So there were 3 guys in the sort of Alaskan Avenger spree that was over the course of a few days in 2016. One of them involved the theft of a truck and a laptop, at least according to prosecutors. Can you explain to me what that's about?
Yeah, that's actually true. Now, if you're somebody like me and you come from a culture of having been in prison or jail often, right, throughout the years, one of the things that is part of the culture, which is just known, and to use, slang terminology for this, taxing pedophiles is standard issue procedure. You want it to cost them something. You want to take something from them, so it costs them when you show up and confront these narcissistic, egotistical predators. So the particular instance you're referring to, interestingly, that particular night I had stopped somewhere in preparation for going there, and there was a couple of girls that were present, and I told them what I was going to do. And it turned out that these girls had been assaulted throughout the course of their life, and they wanted to come with me. And I told them, absolutely, you can come with for sure.
I was curious about that too, because there were people along for the ride in this case. And so you're saying that they're not people you knew for a long time. You met them about that same time.
No, one of them was a girlfriend, not girlfriend romantically, but a girlfriend of mine I had known. But she and her friend both came with me that night. And, after entering the apartment, which took some time to cajole him to open the door, I told the girls, listen, these people owe you everything. So while I take care of this guy, take whatever you want. Everything he's got belongs to you.
And they say in this case you used a hammer as well. Is that the one weapon that was deployed, or were there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, it's kind of funny because people make a big thing about this hammer. And I'm not saying hitting someone in the head with a hammer is not an important facet of an assault. It is. But the reason I had a hammer in my hand was to pry the door open. It wasn't to assault someone. So the evening I went, you're talking about the truck that was missing. While I was sort of giving him this speech and this sermon, I asked him if there was anything in his house that he wanted to donate to his community, because I knew a number of single moms that were managing children with various, autism, PTSD, complex PTSD. These children of these sort of abuse victims just live tormented lives, often without treatment. And I recall seeing a title to a truck sitting on his shelf, and I asked him, how about that truck? You want to donate that to a single mom? And he was like, oh, yes, absolutely, take it. So I took the title to his truck and gave it to the girls. And I think they had taken, I don't know, mountain bikes and a couple of other things from this guy, loaded them up in the back of the truck. And that evening we did drive away with the truck. And interesting part that didn't make the news is there was something of a very happy moment the next morning. I drove that truck to a single mom's house. She was living with her mother. And I went in her bedroom and sort of dangled the keys. And I said, guess what? one of these monsters has a little gift for you and your kids here. He gave you a truck. So it's easy for people to look at the actions from the outside, and many have wanted to devalue what I did and say, well, check it out. He stole stuff from him. He was just trying to find, soft targets or something like that. And it's quite the opposite. If you're going to go face up, no mask, basically no weapon other than a hammer, you want these people to pay. And I suppose that comes off pretty rough and pretty gruff, unless you were someone like myself who had been beaten with 2x4s 1,000 times and had been molested hundreds of times by someone just like that. You would understand the mindset that you're lucky I'm not taking the breath from your lungs. I'm just taking some of your things to distribute to the community,
What happened with your abuser? Is he still alive, or why? I guess my question is, why not go after him directly,
Sure.
or did you?
Sure. Well, again, interesting story. I was arrested and I was sitting in jail for 2.5 years before being sentenced. And it was about a year into waiting in jail, I received a letter underneath the door of my prison cell. And it was from my mother, who, mind you, stayed with this convicted molester for his entire life, to the exclusion of her own sons that had been molested by this guy. She stayed with him until the day he died. But I got a letter under the door, and it was from her, and it said, Larry is dead. He died in the hospital. Ironically, she said, he has written you a letter, and I have it. If you want it, I'll send it to you. It's hard to describe sitting in a jail cell, thinking to myself that the rest of my adult life was gone. Just the lightness and the joy and the peace that I felt knowing that this person who had taken so much from me was no longer sharing the same planet as I was. It was like a wonderful gift, just knowing he wasn't alive anymore.
So this is when you were in prison for prior crimes?
No, for this crime. I had been arrested, and I was sitting there waiting to be sentenced.
So why not? Did you just not know where he was, or why not go after him first?
Well, logistically, it wasn't possible. They lived in Washington State. I'm in Alaska.
Okay.
I would have had to have gotten on a plane and made a road trip.
Okay.
Certainly. I mean, I wish I could have gone to see him. Believe me.
Yeah. I want to leave plenty of time to talk about the philosophy of vigilante justice. It's one thing that I talk to my own audience about a lot. People, it's a very difficult moral question to analyze because, well, just what do we do when our justice system treats very serious criminals leniently? And we see that, I think, in the context of sexual crimes, child abuse, the stuff you're talking about. I think we see it in a lot of other contexts, just theft, acts of violence generally. What is your philosophy of vigilante justice as someone who has acted out on it? Should we act through the political and legal system? If the political and legal systems fail, are these sorts of acts justified? How has being involved in this informed your opinion and your philosophy now?
Yeah. So I will tell you this, if you would have asked me this question 12 years ago, I would have told you, of course we are. Of course we're vigilantes. What else would society expect to be produced from this sort of home life? But what I can say is, we're a nation of laws, and there's laws for a reason. What I think is called for is fairness in the judicial system. And a great example, again, was my own case. I never approached the court and told them, I think I should do no time. I never approached the court and told them, I think you should find me not guilty because I was abused when I was a kid. I approached the court and I told them, I think I should serve some time. I broke the law. I assaulted people. But I think the sentence should be fair and equitable in terms of the assaults that they were perpetrating on children. To that end, I offered them to serve the same sentences that they had served for assaulting children. I will serve their time. all of them back to back to back. And the justice system laughed that offer out of the courtroom and ultimately basically gave me 3 times longer in prison for assaulting child predators than they gave child predators for assaulting children. So I don't think we will have a peaceful and safe and happy nation if vigilantes are running wild, just handling the business as they see fit. I think we can all agree that that's probably not a desirable outcome.
Okay, so you are retired from the vigilante business,
sure.
I take
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
But you've moved on to other things. Obviously, now you're out of prison, so that lengthy sentence you were given, you were released from for reasons you can probably explain to me. But I gather you're doing some form of activism, or you're trying to speak about these issues. Tell me about how your prison sentence ended and what you're doing now.
Sure. Well, for myself, I approached this prison sentence as a time in the monastery, and I used it to advance myself and educate myself. And I mean, in all ways. People don't know this, but there is something of a secret to prison. There are spiritual masters, for lack of a better term, of all different paths, guys that have been locked away from society for 20, 30, 35 years that have studied, Sufism, Hermetic science, certainly Christianity, Islam. And I studied with a number of these guys that have devoted their lives to these different spiritual traditions. Up here in Alaska, it's kind of unique. I was able to do more than 100 warrior sweats with the indigenous native elders that are locked away in a prison, studied their traditions. And then, on the more mundane side of things, I took 41 classes, became a level 2 certified substance abuse counselor, a certified recovery coach. So I used prison to my advantage, which is something that Aristotle taught us, to use the weapons that are formed against us opposite of the manner they were intended. And, the state sort of designs prison to break you down and to remove, everything from you. Well, I used it to build myself up. And it sort of leans into this Alaskan Avenger handle. I was in the house with a big, giant child predator who had convictions for assaulting a baby. And he asked me what I was doing in his house. And I told him privately, between the two of us, you can consider me an avenging angel for the children that you've harmed. And 2 days later, from the emergency room, this guy, as narcissistic as can be, gave a press conference and told the press that I was an avenging angel for people that had harmed kids. And that's how that Alaskan Avenger name or title emerged into the media. I never told anyone that. I didn't call the press. I didn't assign it to myself. It was actually one of the people I assaulted that told the press. And next thing you know, that name exists. And when I was getting out of prison, I was very opposed to embracing that moniker because I'm not a cartoon character or a superhero. I'm just a guy. But as I was doing my prison time, and certainly since I've been out, I have received now tens of thousands of letters, messages, emails from people all over the world who told me things like, sometimes at night when I can't sleep because I'm troubled by the abuse from my past, I imagine the Alaskan Avenger being there and saving me from being assaulted, and it allows me to sleep at night. And I had this realization that, interestingly, the single largest body of humanity on the face of the earth, bigger than any army, bigger than any nation, bigger than any government, are the survivors of childhood abuse and trauma. We are massive all over the world. There's more of us than any other designation of the population. And this group of people was hungry for an archetype that represented winning, having a win against a child predator. And again, that's something you could only really relate to if you had been through it and understand. When I was a child, Every single time that guy came through the door, I lost. I never won. Not one time did I win. My brother didn't win. I didn't win. We just weren't strong enough to defend ourselves. And as an adult, I can assure you, every single time I came through the door, I won. I did not take a single L when it came to dealing with these child predators. So it was those things that caused me to embrace that moniker. And now with the inception of social media, I've had to get up to speed very, very quickly and learn how to push buttons and pull levers correctly to operate a couple of social media platforms.
I never learned that. It's a duct tape production around here, man. I've been pressing the buttons for a decade and I still can't do it right.
You're doing good. But what I found, which is amazing, is it's 10 times more effective to reach out and uplift a child than it is to go out and smash out the monster that was assaulting that child. So there have been such profound wins from my platforms. We've had kids that lost everything and were viciously assaulted on Christmas Eve. And this community that I've built has buried them in presents and food. And I've seen GoFundMes with $70,000 in it when the family was asking for $7,000. We've actually had successes in getting DAs to retire and step down from office because thousands of people are calling due to the deals that they're cutting with these child predators.
Yeah.
There's just been some amazing, powerful wins.
Are there any organizations that you'd like to shout out that are effective in that fight? Because I think whatever people's opinions are in vigilante justice, achieving the sort of wins that you're talking about there are not only uncontroversial, people love that sort of thing. Is there anybody that's particularly effective that you think is worth supporting?
Yeah, I will tell you this. The single most potent, powerful, effective organization for saving children on this earth right now, bar none, is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. These people are so advanced technologically, and they are so savvy and so good and so capable. 9 out of 10 of the extreme child predators, pornographers, are led into handcuffs by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And I'm telling you right now, if there was any organization on the face of this earth that I would be honored to work with, it would be them. If I was going to donate any money ever to any organization, it would be them. Consistently, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies are relying on tips and information they receive from this organization, which has turned up just incredible abuse in our country all over the place. That's the paramount number one nonprofit that I have ever seen in operation.
Last question, and it's an obligatory one. Any chance the Alaskan Avenger returns to release the Epstein files? Can you get it done?
If we could find an unabridged version of them, I think that I'd be happy to do so. But unfortunately, I think that anything that mattered has long since been removed.
All right. Well, that's my guest, the Alaskan Avenger, Jason Vukovich. You can find his YouTube channel linked atop the description. Jason, is there anything else you'd like to promote while you're here?
Well, you guys can catch me. I've got Facebook. I've got Instagram. I'm out there. And I just want everybody to remember that I was released from prison and encountered a lot of division, political and religious division. And it's super important. It's one of the things that I promote all the time, that each one of us, it doesn't matter what race or creed or country, all of us are under one light. So we are one family ultimately. And these children are precious. They need to be protected at all costs.
Well, thank you for your time, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks again to my guest, Jason Vukovich, the Alaskan Avenger. Find his YouTube channel linked atop the description. Joshy, any thoughts on the Alaskan Avenger story?
Quite a few, and I did get into it with the chat, right? Excuse me. But I can certainly understand where he's coming from. That's definitely, excuse me. Sorry, I was smoking right before you. So my throat's a little full of smoke. But the one thing, first of all, that's a tough act to follow, right? So,
how many pedophiles have you beaten up? I guess. Yeah.
None.
All right.
But I doubt I could.
It's a highly debatable course of action, and
Yeah, it is a highly debatable course of action.
So, where do you stand in terms of his activity? Justified, thuggish behavior? What do you think it was?
You see, I never really. I've thought about it, at least what would happen if that happened to somebody I know. I can understand the anger and the hatred that comes from that, right? But bringing people with you, first of all, bringing the people with you, that's highly risky, because what if dude was armed, right? What if the molester was just as violent as this guy was and killed them all, right?
Yeah.
Second, the minute you start doing, like, take the victim for example, oh, you can just take whatever he owes you and everything. I'm going to have to choose my words carefully here. The minute you start taking from him is the minute you stop being a victim, right? You're not a victim anymore. You're just as much as a perpetrator as that guy.
I think that's the toughest thing for me to understand, and I think Jason would talk. That's why I asked him about it. He would talk openly about it. The theft is the hardest thing for me to understand. That and not going after the guy who abused him first.
Yeah.
But I don't think Jason would say, "Oh, I mean, he's totally changed his mind on whether he was justified." He doesn't. As he said, he believes he committed criminal acts. He doesn't think it was justified behavior. So I don't want to present this opinion as though it's at odds with what he might say about it. But those are the two hurdles for me to think that this is justified behavior, at least as it was committed in this case, is the stealing and not going after the guy who was responsible for abusing you.
Yeah.
Are the hardest things for me to understand. But in general, his point that we have a justice system that tends to treat child abuse, child predators very leniently. Yeah, we do. What is the entire Epstein files controversy? It's exactly that. So I also understand why he has such a significant following and why people are so interested in his case, because this is exactly what people always talk about.
Yeah.
Well, the court system, the justice system is not doing the job. Who's going to do the job?
Yeah, that's eventually what it leads to. Is we talked about this all the time. If your government simply won't protect you, right? Sometimes either through incompetence or malice or just outright refusal, that's basically he's doing the force doctrine. It led to that. So I get where he's coming from. I get why he did it. It's just that, like you said, those extra little hurdles, the stealing from him and everything, bringing people with you. I wouldn't have brought those two with me, right?
You get a mountain bike, and you get a mountain bike.
Yeah, but that's what rubbed me the wrong way, and it's like,
I think he would openly admit to that.
Yeah, but any sympathy, cause I come from a kind of no nonsense family. Any sympathy I may have regarded for the victims, if they participate in basically criminal activity like stealing, oh, I can take this because he did me wrong, I'll lose all sympathy for you, right? Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I know that sounds harsh coming from me, but you don't right a wrong with another wrong, right? And there's a fine line between justice and vengeance. That sounded like vengeance to me.
Would you say it sounded like avenging?
Probably. That is a cool last name, though.
I don't think his actual last name is Avenger. I think it's Vukovich.
Yeah, but that's what rubbed me the wrong way, right? I certainly understand his actions and everything, right? Excuse me. But the thieving part and even bringing people with you, to me, that's not justice anymore.
Whatever people's opinions are on his case, and certainly I have questions and skepticism about it. Hey, man, I really appreciate somebody who's did serious time in prison, willing to come and talk openly about their crimes. Yeah. I don't have to justify the crimes he committed or say that they're okay or understandable. To think that I just think it's very interesting to hear from people who are convicted of crimes about why they did it, what their thinking was.
Yeah.
I think that there's value in that too. It's not to glorify or promote his case that I think has a lot of questions rightly associated with it, but to understand the mindset of a person who actually commits that sort of activity, I think is interesting and valuable too. So I really appreciate Jason's time. It's not often that I get to talk to people who are in his position in life. So thank him for that.
Yeah. The one thing that also kind of upset me as I was listening to an interview is the church's insistence that they immediately forgive this guy, right? I know. As Christians, we're meant to forgive, right? But something like that, something that heinous, you still remove that person from your community, right? And stuff like that takes time.
And he served his time for it.
No. I'm not talking about the interviewer. I'm talking about the abuser. Right?
Oh, you're talking about the guys he was going after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, for example, when the church was telling him and his brother, "Oh, you need to forgive this guy. You need to forgive this guy," and everything,
I see.
right? It's
yeah. Okay.
Forgiveness is key, right? Reconciliation is key, but that requires both parties, right? You can't just do one. You can leave the door open, but forgiveness, that does take time, especially for something like that. So I think the church, in some way, is also responsible for that continued behavior.
Well, they should have gone Orthodox, clearly. I mean, that was their first mistake.
Yeah. What church was it? What kind of church?
I don't know. He didn't specify, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was Orthodox by the sound of it.
It was either
we'll have to ask him.
It was either Protestant or Catholic. It's always one of those two.
As Nelson would say, that's some bullshit. Whatever it was. Yeah.
That's some bullshit right there.
All right. Well, hopping back into the news, unless you had more you wanted to add on that, but thanks for listening to it, and I appreciate your thoughts.
That's the only thing, the thieving part. That's the biggest. I mean,
just leave the mountain bikes alone.
Basically going and taking revenge or vengeance or avenging people, that's still wrong, right? And he admits to that, but the thieving part was what really rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah.
Well, I, of course, invite audience thoughts about it. Maybe we'll have some super chats, but that's something that maybe people want to email about on Wednesday or call in about. You know, I definitely am interested to hear what people think about this case. So I'm sure we'll talk about it some more.
That's going to be a new sign tapper.
There won't be a sign tapper because I understand the thirst for vigilante justice. I don't think this was a great application of it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all vigilante justice is improper. Let's put it this way. If he had organized a gang of his friends to go after the guy who did that to him and kicked his ass in the same way, and my criticisms that apply to what he did instead don't apply, I would have probably a very different view of his case. I don't think that the things that we're criticizing about his case erase the concept of vigilante justice entirely. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So
I certainly get it though. If it was more like an isolated incident, I guess I would have a different opinion about it, but I don't know.
Anyway, appreciate Jason's time, and perhaps we'll speak again sometime. But if people are interested in hearing more of what he has to say, you can head on over to his YouTube channel, Alaskan Avenger, and he's fairly active over there. So perhaps we'll see him again sometime. Anyway, a couple stories I wanted to talk about before the interview, but I just ran out of time. I do think they're important to catch up on before we get into hoax hate. Just updates in some legal stories we've been following lately. Of course, recall back, what was it, a few weeks ago? I can't remember the timeline, but it was the end of September when James Comey got charged. Trump and the DOJ brought charges against James Comey, former FBI director, for lying to Congress. About the same time, they brought charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Yes, that's how you pronounce her name. Don't email me about it. For mortgage fraud. And the DOJ brought both of these cases under prosecutor Lindsay Halligan in the Eastern District of Virginia. Lindsay Halligan she's an appointed prosecutor, a temporary prosecutor. The prior prosecutor was fired for refusal to bring these cases because, in his view, they lacked sufficient evidence. And now, since both of these cases were under the same judge in the Eastern District of Virginia, that judge has dismissed both of these cases because the prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, in the view of the judge, was unlawfully appointed. So the reasoning here is that the judge or is that the prosecutor, Lindsey Halligan, was appointed to replace the prior guy. I forget his name, but he was also an interim prosecutor, as in appointed for a temporary amount of time and not yet Senate confirmed. Now, according to the reasoning of this judge, if you allowed a sequence of interim appointments... What is this cloud of smoke going on here?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Let me stop.
Where's my button? I had a button for this.
Sorry, at a certain point in time, I have to smoke something.
Oh yeah, here's the button.
You're fired.
Anyway, what was the reasoning of the judge? And the reasoning of the judge, if you allowed a sequence of interim prosecutors, temporary prosecutors to be appointed, the president could just get around the Constitution's requirement that these prosecutors are Senate confirmed. So that's why you can't have a sequence or consecutive interim prosecutors. And that makes sense, frankly. I don't think that that's actually wrong. But what's notable about the dismissal of these cases on that basis is that it's a dismissal without prejudice, as in these cases can be brought again because the rulings are on the process only. They're not actually about the substance of the accusations. They're not. The dismissal is not about whether Letitia James actually committed mortgage fraud or James Comey actually lied to Congress. It's just that the prosecutor who brought the charges, secured them with the grand jury, does not lawfully hold that office. So the question remains, well, what if someone who did lawfully hold that office brought those charges?
Yeah.
That could happen later. So these cases aren't dead. Comey's case is going to be very murky because, of course, Comey's charges were filed right on the eve of the statute of limitations expiring at the end of September. So Comey's team is saying, well, he because the statute of limitations has expired on his charges, you can't do that. You can't bring any new charges against him because the statute of limitations is gone. The challenge is going to be from the Trump people in the DOJ. Their perspective will be something like, well, when those charges were brought at the end of September, that doesn't end the statute of limitations clock, that pauses it. So actually, we should have a little bit of extra time on the statute of limitations to bring these charges later, I believe. I don't know the technicals of what their case will be, but they're going to argue that the statute of limitations has not in fact expired because the original charges were filed right on time. It's going to be drawn out. We're not going to get any kind of resolution in these cases anytime soon, but they're not dead. So I would expect we're going to see some more updates on these cases rolling into the spring. There's also an update. Sorry, do you have more you wanted to add?
No, as long as I see the two of them in handcuffs and going to jail, okay? I'm sick of... What I'm getting tired of is like, oh, these people committed a crime, they committed this and they committed that, but nobody goes to jail.
Yeah, I think this is one of those where the process is the punishment. I don't think you're going to see... I'd be shocked, frankly, pleasantly surprised to see either of them go to prison. And yeah, these are political prosecutions, as we've talked about. But there have been political prosecutions against Trump for years now. I don't like the idea of political prosecutions, but they have to be stopped. The only way you stop them is either by revenge political prosecutions, which I believe these are, or just, I guess it's wartime. I would prefer not wartime, although it depends on the day you ask anymore. Getting awfully tired of all of this behavior.
Yeah.
But if you want to stop the political prosecutions, it seems to me that revenge political prosecution is the only way to do it, because if you instead just say, nope, we're not going to do that. We're above that. Guess what happens the next time they gain power? They do more political prosecutions. Yeah. So even though I don't think it's likely to succeed, I think you have to do it. And I still support this pursuit of it.
At this point, you do have to sacrifice some of your principles, I guess.
It's either that or just lay down while these people continue to use these illegitimate weapons against you.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's a self-defense situation. I would prefer to operate within the confines of the law because that avoids violence. But if we erase that possibility, we say, well, we're not going to use those methods. What methods remain other than total surrender? If the available methods are total surrender or war, which one are you supposed to pick? Because total surrender is not really an option, is it? Anyway.
Well, if you're not able to use force, then yeah, that is the only option left. So
we'll see. We'll see where all of this goes. But there's also the Blaze report on November 8th. That was from Steve Baker and Joseph Hanneman. Did we? I can't remember if you were on the show where we talked about this one, or have you and I talked about this alleged pipe bomber identification yet?
I think that was somebody else, but I was watching the show.
Okay, so this report came out earlier in the month. They claimed, they being Steve Baker and Joseph Hanneman at the Blaze, they didn't say we have identified the pipe bomber, but the story is obviously it strongly implies that. They said that through a gait analysis, they found a former Capitol Police officer named Shawnee Ray Kirchhoff, who has a particular walking style because she sustained a soccer injury when she was in college or whenever she was a soccer player. And they had some unnamed analyst using unknown methods compare videos of her walking with videos of the pipe bomber walking. And this analysis says that the match in the style of walking that they have is something like 95%. And on that basis, the story all but accuses her of being the pipe bomber. And of course, we've had questions about that story since. This week, the update in the story is that CBS is reporting, according to 3 sources within the FBI or elsewhere in the federal government, that the FBI has actually investigated Kirchhoff and cleared her. And they've cleared her based on her alibi and some sort of accompanying video that shows her playing with her puppies at the time that the pipe bombs were planted. Now, as far as I'm aware, can you see the video? No. Can I see the metadata on the video? No. Could the FBI theoretically fake that evidence in order to clear her? Certainly, that's possible. So the problem here is the original report from The Blaze is a dressed up version of Trust Me, Bro. It's look at this gait analysis from someone we won't say who it is using methods we won't describe. Trust me, bro. The alibi is also trust me, bro. Bro, there's a video. Can we see it? No. Can I see the metadata? No. Trust me, bro. So it's fair to question both sides of this here because there's no tangible evidence that either side has provided. Now, personally, I don't put a lot of stock in that gait analysis, especially if you won't show me who did the gait analysis, what the methods were. Can we try to reproduce it? Can we have some peer in the field of this form of study evaluate it, tell us what their opinion of it is? Can you show your work so that the rest of us can review it? No. Until I can see that, I'm not going to put a lot of stock in this report because there's no independent verification. On the other side, if Kirchhoff has this rock-solid alibi, I have video of me playing with my puppies. One, why haven't we seen the video? Why do you apparently have no interest in clearing your name? Number two, The Blaze definitely defamed you. I would, that lawsuit should be in the works, and maybe it is. Those things take time to present, but so far we don't have any indication that she's planning a defamation lawsuit. So for now, where I land on this controversy, I'm going to stick with innocent until proven guilty. I'm not going to go with guilty until proven innocent. Where does that put the burden? It puts the burden on the accusers at the Blaze to show their evidence, provide their evidence. I'm certainly open to that evidence. I just haven't seen it yet. Until I do, I'm not going to take that story as true. But I certainly reserve the right to review that evidence and change my mind when it's available. You have any? And do you think this lady did it? You believe her puppy story?
Somebody, I think it was Skulldugger, right? I ain't trying to call him out, but I kind of agree with him with the whole gait analysis thing. Anybody can fake a limp, right? So if that's the only thing that they're going
can you do it with 94% accuracy?
Probably, if I just watched it enough. I mean, people can fake an injury all the time, right? That's not enough. Can't just base it off of that.
Given I think the questions about the methods and the fact that they're not being transparent about the methods, I remain surprised that the Blaze even decided to run this because I think the risk of being wrong here is so high from a defamation perspective. But then again, the Blaze, I mean, they're a professional publication. They're more lawyerly than I am in terms of their resources. I assume they got this cleared through legal and they have some sort of truth defense if they were presented with some sort of legal challenge in that way. So until I can see the conclusive evidence from either side of this dispute, I can't say that one is certainly right and the other is certainly wrong. I'm just going to stick with innocent until proven guilty. She has not been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, in my opinion, yet. But
I don't think she will.
I would think if they had more conclusive evidence, they would have presented it. But maybe they're saving
hiding
for some
something,
reason.
or this whole thing is just like Nelson says, bullshit.
That's some bullshit. All right, time for some hoax hate.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
And now, the nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America hoax hate crime of the week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
It's another Nelson story. It's another KTLA American. There's a viral post this week. I couldn't find the origin. Like, what TikTok or Instagram account did this come from? I tried. I couldn't find it. But the post is going viral this week. I believe it originates sometime around Veterans Day this year because the woman in question references Veterans Day. Mm-hmm. But there's a black woman here. She says she's a military veteran. She says she was just shopping at the grocery store with what looks like her son. And she was picking out some bananas. And she says an unknown white man approached her and made monkey noises. Here's her story.
Mm-hmm. I'm a veteran. I beat cancer, and today is Veterans Day.
Y'all, real shit. No, funny shit. I guess today I look like a monkey because I was picking up some bananas. Hold on, let me get the bananas in question. And a white man proceeds to go, ooh, ooh, I can't even make the fucking noise because I'm not a fucking monkey. Ooh, 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 ah, ah, ah. And I said, and I proceeds to put my bananas in the damn buggy.
First of all, you just done bruised them.
So, OOTD of a gorilla.
Where's your...
Good
I was
job
hoping
acting like a monkey.
Sorry, what was your banana expert point?
Don't just toss them in the fucking buggy, lady. You're going to bruise them. But anyway, I noticed something else. Where's Dad at?
Bingo.
Yeah, nobody. He's clearly not at this store getting a pack of cigarettes, apparently. I don't know where he shops, but it ain't here.
At, bro?
Yeah.
No, I'm being mean. I don't know if the father's present or not, but you know.
In other astute observations, this is her own observation. I didn't know because I'm not hip with the kids these days.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what OOTD stands for. Do you know what that is?
No.
At the end, she says, I guess OOTD is a gorilla.
Let me look that up.
You find it. You tell me what you find.
Internet has never failed me yet.
OOTD.
Okay, let's see. What? That can't be right. Outfit of the day is what it stands for.
Right. So she's saying, I guess my outfit of the day is gorilla.
Bingo.
What?
She's just saying, I guess I look very apey today.
Yeah, maybe your facial structure looks like that, but
no chance this happened as described, of course. No. But let me ask you the degree to which you may believe this, because the only steel manning I can do here is that maybe an older guy, maybe a white guy, who knows, saw the kid that's with her, looks like a young kid, like toddler. The kid is talking, so it's not an infant, but maybe a 2-year-old, maybe a 3-year-old, something like that. Do you think that a white man just saw the kid and said something in baby talk, like, oh, cute kid? It was goo goo gaga, not ooh ooh ah ah. Do you think that could be a possibility?
Yeah. I mean, you see a kid, you see a 2-year-old or whatever, and people wave, people make whatever baby noises or something like that. It happens all the time in stores. Dude, sometimes babies even do that at you.
Well, thankfully, we don't take our boys grocery shopping very much. That's one of the benefits of having grandma and grandpa around is we're able to get a lot of errands and chores done without having to involve our children, which is great because I think it's better for them, to be able to have playtime or do something more useful with their time than just grocery shopping or something. So we're very fortunate and thankful for that. But when we used to grocery shop with our boys more commonly before my parents moved here, people are friendly with your kids, and I'm not like I don't like small talk in public, I don't want people. I'm not mad if someone comes up and says something nice to my kid or about my kid. That's great. I appreciate it. Thank you. However, the people who touch your kid without Okay, that's happened a few times. You know, they want to pinch the cheeks, or they want to give some sort of hug or something. I've never drawn a gun in any kind of public setting, but that's the closest I've ever been, is the people who touch your kids without asking. I was about to take a hammer to them and steal their mountain bikes when they did that. So I understand. But yeah, don't that's
yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is, to return to the story, I could believe that someone did something like that because I've seen it. I've had my boys in the shopping cart, and I've had strangers come up and say things like that. Oh, cute kid, baby talk, whatever. That I could totally see happening.
But that, I mean, some stranger complimenting your kid, that's pretty common ground, right?
Yeah, it's also nice, you know, contrary to her portrayal of a racist guy who said, "Look, a black woman, I'm going to make monkey noises at her." It's
they
actually
never
just a
seem
nice
to
man.
go in. They never really seem to go into detail either. Okay, older white man, did he have a beard? What was his hair like? What was he wearing? It's just that some old white guy started making monkey noises at me. It's always a lady looking at her phone. She has to record herself and everything. It says, "Y'all, you will not believe what happened to me today." And it says, "I don't."
Yeah, I definitely don't. But also, given how conveniently your phone is deployed, why don't you record this person in question?
I know.
Why was none of that captured? But anyway. All right, I got another one for you. Speaking of some bullshit, quote Nelson. This week in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro signed the Crown Act, officially prohibiting hair discrimination in his state.
Discriminating against someone based on their natural hair is now banned in Pennsylvania. Governor Josh Shapiro just signed the bill into law this morning.
Pennsylvania now becomes the 28th state in the nation to ban discrimination in workplaces, in schools, for someone who is wearing their natural hair. Now, Governor Josh Shapiro signed that bill into law here at Island Design Natural Hair Salon on 52nd Street in West Philadelphia. But this has been a fight years in the making for many folks in this community. Now, the owner of this salon, Lorraine Ruley, she tells me she sees people coming in all the time saying they need to cut off their locks or their braids because they have a job interview or they feel like their employer may deem them as not, quote, professional.
Hair discrimination has taken confidence from our children, but that ends today. Hair discrimination has taken dignity from workers, but that ends today. It has taken access to economic opportunities, hopes, and dreams. But that begins to end today.
Now, Governor Shapiro said in 2022, there were more than 900 reports of racial discrimination based on hair to the Pennsylvania Human Resources Commission.
Who the fuck made this shit up?
Okay.
Michelle Obama did. That's who.
I do have some words for this, right? I don't know if they have anything like that in Tennessee, but
they might. 28 states. That was the shocking thing to me. Most states have an anti-hair discrimination law. They're trying to do it federally too, but they haven't done it yet. The House actually passed it under Pelosi.
Yeah, I think my state actually does do that, right? But my thing is that I guarantee you that most companies simply don't care if you have locks like mine or something like that. It also depends on the job, right? I work maintenance at where I work at. I do church maintenance, right? If I need to protect my hair against something, I have a bandana for that. They don't care if I have locks, right? But if you're working with machinery and you have locks as long as mine, you may want to consider cutting them off or go find a different job, right?
Yeah, there are definitely beyond just whether you like long hair aesthetically. There are definitely certain jobs where the hair is a legitimate concern, not just in customer service and appearance, but safety, like you're talking about.
Yeah. Like, for example, there are certain jobs I probably wouldn't go into simply because I like my locks, right? It didn't take me very long to grow these, but food, if the length of my hair right now, I can cover that up pretty easily with a hairnet if I ever went back into the food industry. But if my hair got longer, right, to past my shoulders or anything, I probably wouldn't consider going there. You know what I mean?
Speaking of the food industry, I realized if we do the Halloween bit, if you're part of the Halloween bit again next year, we have to do, I don't know how I'll participate, but we have to do Good Burger because you have to be Ed from Good Burger.
I know. I was kind of, when I realized that, I was kicking myself in the ass. I was like, I should have gotten the Good Burger uniform. That would have been great.
Yeah, both of us.
You're fired.
We should be after that error. I feel so
But
dumb.
yeah,
in
surprisingly-
retrospect. Not that your selection of crazy Jew costume from Spirit Halloween was that had some shock value for sure.
Man, it was uncomfortable for sure. But
anyway, you definitely can't work in food if you are an Orthodox rabbi. There's way too much hair that's going to get in the sandwich.
Right? But yeah, surprisingly, yeah, this is a thing. I don't have any sympathy for it, but I don't have anything against it either. I would just say, just choose your job wisely, I guess.
Well, the other thing, sorry, go ahead.
No, but that's the thing. Most people don't discriminate because of your hair. I mean, think about all the white people who also have dreadlocks that might need to cut it off.
Well, I agree that most people probably don't, but some might, and I don't understand why they like someone might discriminate against you because they don't like your stupid face. I'm not hiring that guy. I hate his face. Yeah. Okay, maybe that's wise. Maybe it's not. But facial discrimination is allowed. Hair discrimination is not. The other thing I don't understand is how is it distinct from race discrimination, which is already illegal? You heard in the report there are 900 complaints in Pennsylvania in 2022 of race-based hair discrimination.
You know full well those companies will get shut down because it'll be all over social media.
If there's any communication record of, I liked that person. Listen, I wanted to hire Nelson, but it was his dreadlocks that it wasn't his felony conviction. We were fine with that. It was his dreadlocks that stopped us. But I don't understand what the distinction is because you're telling me there were 900 complaints about race-based hair discrimination, according to the news reporting. But the race-based discrimination is already illegal in the employment and academic context. So why is the added hair protection needed? Who is this applying to? Like a guy who is not acting on his racial preferences, but just likes short hair or long hair in a way that actually has no impact on the job. He just prefers it for aesthetic reasons. That guy seems like he doesn't exist, but also even if he does, why should I care? He's allowed not to like certain hairstyles at his business. That's fine. And lastly, the practical component here seems impossible to. How are you ever going to prove that somebody fired you or didn't hire you or discriminated against you in some way because he didn't like your hair? How will you ever prove that?
You can't really.
When is this ever going to be deployed in court? It just seems like a silly thing that is never going to have any practical application.
And think about all the other establishments that discriminate in other ways, right? There are certain clubs where you have to dress a certain way or they won't let you in, or you have to be
why is that allowed?
Right? There are clubs around my hometown where you have to be 35 and up. You can't enter if you're below 35, right?
Yeah.
So, and that doesn't matter if you're black, white, or whatever. They just won't let you in. But this whole thing's kind of silly to me. You don't really need a law for that.
No. The whole thing's preposterous, but it's another victory. One of the state legislators who made this happen worked on it for 6 years. Took 6 years of her. She's the Rosa Parks of dreadlocks. She's been fighting.
What the hell are you guys doing?
You're collecting state benefits and a state salary for this fight for anti-hair discrimination and whatever.
I guarantee you that they only did this because a lot of black women didn't want to lose their weave because they paid a lot of money for it. So
you know who makes black women lose their weaves the most statistically?
Other black women.
Other black women in fights at Waffle House. You're right.
Couldn't also help but
bingo.
Couldn't help but notice also that some of the men back there were bald.
Hey, what about us? You know, what if you don't want to hire a jackass with no hair in a Hawaiian shirt? Am I entitled to a job? Is that hair discrimination if I have none or next to none and you don't hire me on that basis?
Oh, man.
Anyway.
It's absurd. It's silly.
Lastly, there's a story. Democrats and rainbow activists of all stripes are now accusing the Trump Justice Department of ignoring hate crimes, not prosecuting them, not dishing out the federal money that's supposed to go to prosecuting them. These activists and 105 members of Congress who signed onto a letter, they wrote a strongly worded letter to the Justice Department and Attorney General Pam Bondi. They also have filed a lawsuit because as part of DOJ and closing down unnecessary government offices, apparently the Trump Justice Department has closed the Community Relations Service, within the Justice Department that was devoted to handling cases under the Civil Rights Act. They didn't eliminate the department, but they reduced it to one person who works there. So I'm sure that's probably what they can do within the confines of the law. But these activists and Democrat members of Congress say that the Justice Department just does not care about hate crimes from a federal perspective anymore, and they're doing everything they can to minimize the federal government's role in investigating and prosecuting hate crimes. And they say it's not just in terms of what they choose to prosecute or how they handle their offices. They say they're also doing this with grant money or federal money that is awarded to state and local governments to handle this too. The activists note that Trump's 2026 budget calls for cutting all grants authorized under the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act.
Good.
So it's very fitting that this fake issue is named after a fake hate crime itself. Matthew Shepard in Wyoming, as we've talked about many times on this show, the famous 1998 case, that was a murder for sure. Those guys belong in prison for murdering him. It was not an anti-gay hate crime. One of the guys who killed Matthew Shepard was his gay boyfriend. It was over a drug dispute. Matthew Shepard was running drugs. These guys were part of that drug trafficking. They had a drug dispute. They killed Matthew Shepard over that issue. It is not an anti-gay murder, but of course that it had to be propped up as an anti-gay crime and made into a federal issue. Now we have to get the federal government involved in all of these things. We talked about this in this bit throughout the history of this show. Being hateful in committing a crime doesn't or shouldn't make it any more severe from the law's perspective, but it absolutely should not make it for a matter for the federal government's concern, the motive for the crime. Did he do it with hate in his heart or not? You think of all the ways that the feds have involved themselves in criminal prosecutions that actually have nothing to do with the federal government or federal law on this kind of similarly flimsy basis. Now, the Derek Chauvin case in Minneapolis, that wasn't a hate crime angle necessarily, but they still they made it a federal case for prosecution because Derek Chauvin supposedly violated George Floyd's constitutional rights. They got the McMichaels in the Ahmaud Arbery case, the famous jogger who, was it a self-defense case? Was it a murder? All right, that's a matter for Georgia to handle. Georgia handled it. They put those guys in prison for murder. You decide if you think that was a proper application of Georgia law or not. But it has nothing to do with the federal government's jurisdiction. Yet the federal government went in there and got them federal convictions for hate crime charges because one time they said the N-word in some text messages or something like that. So they hated him on account of his race. And now the federal government has its nose in states' police power once again. And so for these activists who are now mad that the federal government's not doing exactly what they want with prosecutions, well, this is what happens when you diminish the police power that rightly constitutionally belongs to the states. The federal government is not going to do law enforcement the way you want it done because the federal government is a million miles away from your locale, your community. You're not going to get the policing you want out of the federal government, which is the intent of the design of our country. You want good policing that's accountable to the people? You leave police power with the states so you can craft the policing, the law in your state as you see fit. If you think hate crimes are treated too lightly, great. Write a law about it in whatever freaking state you're from and prosecute those cases accordingly. But this is the great paradox with these people. Centralize all the power in the federal government. Make sure all the power to prosecute these things not only comes from the federal Justice Department, but make sure they dish out all the money to prosecute these things on a local basis too. What? No, wait, not like that. So, sorry, when you willingly hand over the power to the federal government, you don't get the results you want. That's not how it works. So stop handing power over to them, for the love of God.
They won't learn their lesson. They never do.
Well,
like you said before, they have to learn the hard way.
And it seems everybody does. It's not that's not limited to just progressive Tim Walz retards who believe in communism. There's a lot of people of a lot of persuasions who have to learn lessons the hard way. I've done that in my life too. No, that guy did it wrong. I could do it better. Nope, should have learned from him.
We are hard-headed.
I think we've all done that. Anyway, anything else you have to say about the failure to go after hate crimes from the Trump Justice Department?
I don't think there's enough hatred when it comes to crime.
We need our crimes more hateful in this country. They're not hateful enough, actually. Anyway, let's catch up with our super chatters. We will call it a night. I left off. I'm going to go back to Rumble. I'll come back to YouTube. We're good on Odyssey. Appreciate you guys over there. Ramsey over on Rumble. Don't care about the details. Avengers unite. It's certainly better than what we have for a quote-unquote justice system now. And that's the side of the story that I can understand. I can criticize the actions taken by Jason, the Alaskan Avenger, and he would criticize his own actions. Yeah. That doesn't mean that I think the status quo is acceptable either. There are a lot of broken things. The question is how to fix them. And yeah, I mean, I get that side of the case.
And that's what it inevitably, if I can pronounce my words tonight, that's what it leads to, right? If your state, if your government won't protect you or even sides with the criminals, what else can you do other than that? So I certainly understand what led to that.
It's mountain bike season, man. Go out and steal them all. That's what you have to do.
I know, right? Me and the boys finna roll up. The only thing I would caution with is I know he wasn't really justifying his actions, right? But there are a lot of people say, well, they're justified because they did so and so. Okay, well, your opponents, your enemies, can use the same justifications for any arbitrary reason. So I would say be careful with that.
Yeah, which vigilante mobs are going to win in the great vigilante civil war that's coming?
Yeah, man, there's the gay war, the furry war, the vigilante war.
The gay war went all the way to the trans war. I was not expecting that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
You know, that's the way that one went.
We got a lot of wars to fight.
I dare you, fucking bitch!
They're coming for you. Donnie, 5,000. Revenge is the purest of motivations. At least it's honest.
I wouldn't even call it the purest. It's just I would agree with the honest part. I just wouldn't agree with the. Well, actually, if I'm doing pure.
Well, I guess honesty can also be mistaken, if that makes sense. Like you may think you're acting in revenge, but are you?
True.
Not always.
It's not even. I wouldn't even call it. I know I said revenge earlier, but I wouldn't even call it what he was doing revenge. It's called like vengeance. That's why I said it that way.
You're doing the Simpsons bit I love, where Lenny says, nothing like revenge for getting back at people. And Carl says, I don't know, vengeance is pretty good. What is the distinction? Because I consider them to be synonyms. What's the difference?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to Google it.
Me too.
Well, you said that they were different. I'm challenging you on the spot.
I know, right?
Let's get the official answer from Google AI. While often used interchangeably, revenge is typically seen as a personal, emotional act of retaliation for a wrong one has suffered, while vengeance is often considered a more formal, severe, or and sometimes calculated or impersonal act of punishment.
Okay, so
that sounds like the same thing to me.
Vengeance meaning like take the Alaskan Avenger for example, right? Mm-hmm. He was targeting other abusers that didn't abuse him, but other people. Yeah. I would say that as vengeance, right?
Okay, so that's your distinction is people who didn't harm you personally.
So while the action hits home to him because it happened to him, you can still argue that he's in a way detached to that particular instance, but still carries out the punishment, right? Vengeance is that it's more personal. So if I want to revenge on you because you wronged me, maybe because you stepped and scuffed my shoes, then that's revenge, right?
Okay.
But if some kid had his shoes scuffed by some random dude and I, decided to do something about it, that's vengeance.
All right. Okay.
It's one of those
I guess we'd have
words.
to ask Donnie, the chatter. Revenge is the purest of motivations, but what about vengeance? Is that a pure motivation? At least it is honest. Yeah, but that's the thing, though, is like there can be motivations for crime that are purely honest. Like I'm doing it for this reason. It can also be totally immoral.
Yeah.
I could tell you I'm stealing those mountain bikes to sell them at Play It Again Sports to feed my kids. And that could be totally honest. It's also immoral. That's the classic, like, is it right or excusable for someone to steal a loaf of bread to feed their starving family? The answer is it's not, because there are things that you could do for that transaction to be made moral. If my kids were going to die and I had to take the bread, what I could do is inform the owner of that bread, hey man, sorry, really had to take it. But what can I do for you after the fact to make it right? Can I bake you some more bread? Can I do the dishes at your bake shop? What can I do to right that debt to you? That's the answer.
That'll be reconciliation at that point, because you are trying to make it right.
Yeah. It's not right to just take someone else's property because you quote unquote need it, or someone else did something mean to you or something like that. Ginger Ninja 1776, and thanks, Donnie. Powerful stuff from the Alaskan Avenger, but I disagree with one thing. I don't think it would be a bad thing for vigilantes to be running wild, attaching these men to milestones as the Bible, or to millstones, not milestones. Attaching these men to millstones as the Bible says. Well, the vigilante justice, like any form of justice, can be correct. It can be applied rightly. That is to say, someone commits the sort of crimes you're talking about, whether it's child abuse or just say cold-blooded murder or any other form of severe crime. If the justice system that exists through the government fails to convict, punish that person, it would still be just for that person to have that sort of very serious punishment that fits the serious crime. The only issue there, and this isn't even unique to vigilante justice, I just think it's probably worsened by vigilante justice. The reason our justice system, I think, is more moral, at least in theory, we can debate about it, the practical reality, but at least in theory, it's not because it's government applied or because the government has some separate moral authority from the rest of us. It's because there are steps taken in the design of that justice system to minimize mistakes in determining the facts. We want to investigate what happened, with both sides having the ability to present their case to a jury of peers, not just because that's what's quote-unquote fair to everybody involved, but because that's the best method we have at getting at the actual truth. Pitchforks, torches, mobs, which often are what vigilante justice is, not always, but often, those are ripe for mistakes. So it's not to say that our system of courtroom justice never makes mistakes. It does. I really worry that the possibility for mistakes, wrongly accusing someone, wrongly punishing someone, is much higher in a vigilante system than in a system that is committed to due process, judgment by a jury of your peers, and all of those associated principles. So that's why. But if the mobs had 100% track record, or like very close, better than the jury system, hey man, I can't argue with you.
My only hang up with that is the fact that I know people, it's because of the heinous crime that was committed, right? So it's easy for people to jump in that and say, yeah, I don't mind vigilante mobs running around doling out justice where the court system has failed. Just be mindful that can turn on you at some point.
Oh, of course. We all love a righteous pitchfork mob that achieves just ends until the pitchfork mob has come for you with a false allegation. Yeah. That's my only hang up. That's why that's why I know our government system, that it's not perfect, but it is effective at least. Look at me shilling from Big Daddy Guns. Debate, I mean, I don't know. Then it's like, hey man, the Epstein case, the cases. Whatever you think about what the Alaskan Avenger did, the fact remains that these guys who are convicted pedophiles in Alaska seem to have received pretty light sentences. Okay. Move it. Ramsey also says, I'd be happy with mostly moral vigilantes as opposed to what we have now, no question. Also says, America has become Blazing Saddles, effed up beyond imagination, funny and full of evil. It's also, as much as I will defend the principles that I think our justice system is built on, and I think they are morally correct, the practical application that it has today, it's the way it exists today. I mean, is it hard? It's hard to defend in any kind of absolute term. You have corrupt prosecutors who refuse to hold these people accountable. You have corrupt influences that put these people in office. The operation that is George Soros funding these people and the rest. I know that's kind of a meme, but there's a lot of truth to it. And beyond that, you have, I think most fundamentally, you have a morally corrupt people in a lot of places. People, maybe that's too harsh, because I think a lot of people just have moral confusion. I don't think they're trying to be wicked or evil, but they're confused about important things. The point is, like, to some extent, these broken justice systems, from prosecutors to judges and the rest, they are a lot of the time a reflection of morally broken people who put them there, even beyond the big money influences who are certainly part of the picture too. But that's my other consideration is like, okay, vigilante justice can work among men who are committed to truth and morality.
Yeah, but
is that what we have right now? Like the problems in our justice system, we have evil people running it and supporting it. If those same evil people are given the pitchforks and the torches, that problem isn't resolved. Their methods just change.
Yeah, and the only thing, when people say moral, okay, where are you getting your morals from? If you're Christian like us, you get them objectively from Yahweh, right? But if your morality changes like the wind, are you really any better than your opposition?
Well, if you believe that morality itself is a human creation, morality is what the mob says it is.
Yeah.
In that sense, it's not God who's morally perfect. It's the mob. Whether the mob votes democratically or just decides that you're the target because they have the pitchforks and the torches. If morality is defined by people in that way, yeah, that's scary, because the same people who are going to exert the force are the ones who define what morality itself is. That's a problem that remains whether you are doing vigilante justice or classic courtroom justice that we have now. You're not going to get it with people who have no concept of the moral principles on which the concept of justice is built. So I get where you're coming from, Ramsey. I understand the frustration, certainly. Ginger Ninja also says that in theory phrase regarding our justice system is carrying a lot of water. Well, yeah, it is. But I don't think that makes it untrue, as we're talking about. Moral truth isn't proven false by people who violate it. That is to say, if I tell you there's a moral principle against killing people in cold blood, and we watch a guy do it, the principle still exists. The rule against it still exists, and I can explain it to you. It doesn't justify what the cold-blooded killer just did in front of our eyes. And I know your argument might not be exactly that, Ginger Ninja. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, because I know communicating through this form is not necessarily equal in that way. But what I'm saying is, in theory still matters, because in theory means according to moral principle. That's what I mean when I say it. We have to build whatever system we're going to, whatever system we're going to use on moral principles and aimed in a moral direction. That is to say, the truth is paramount. Is our justice system about getting people, quote unquote, or is it about the truth? It has to be oriented toward finding the truth, because valid moral judgments are based only on the truth. You can't have a morally valid judgment in the absence of the truth. Does that make sense? Like, as soon as we abandon that purpose for our justice system, it's over. Whether we're doing trial by jury or just pitchfork and torch mob. So that's what I mean by in theory. Like, for what purpose does this justice system serve? Any justice system can be corrupted, but that doesn't mean that we ignore the proper moral principles on which we build such a system, or we toss them out. Because without those, there's no concept of justice itself.
Yeah.
Corrupt people have ruined it in a lot of places, though. I share that criticism and concern. I'm not convinced that the vigilante system is going to solve it. As always, y'all motherfuckers need Jesus. We need a moral revival in this country. I think Ginger Ninja and I might agree on that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to say for certain, but
yeah, vigilantism is maybe good for a short term, I don't think, but again, it depends on the method.
Let me get back to YouTube here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Esoterica Unbound. It's I thought he was trying to get around the YouTube censors by I thought he was trying to type faggot, but it's Farragut Square. This is the DC place I can't pronounce.
Oh, okay.
You are like the epitome, or the epitome, but I like to say epitome, of the uncultured. But I love it. This show is like a Monty Python skit. What?
Epitome?
How dare you insult my show by comparing it to a Monty Python skit?
Oh, by the way, I tried watching The Holy Grail. I just could not get into it.
Thank you. That's Yeah, it was Matt Palumbo last week hating on Monty Python. So that's like that's a prerequisite. I don't do hair discrimination on this show because who the hell would I be to judge someone else's hair? But if you want to be a contributor on my show, you have to hate all British comedy, but Monty Python in particular.
Some British comedy is fine, just not Monty Python.
No, I'm sorry, that's not good enough.
You're fired.
Producer Tim. What's up, my Nelsons? In response to Joshy Boy's question about the Muslim ban, I crunched the numbers on what the so-called ban was, on what this new ban, I guess, was suggest. Or let me read that again. I crunched the numbers back when the so-called ban was suggested. So the original Muslim ban. Mm-hmm. You know that worldwide percentage of Muslims would be affected around 9%. Least effective ban ever. Oh, because it was only certain countries. They called it a Muslim ban, even though it didn't apply to all Muslims.
It didn't.
Injured Guardian, them, phobia, me, it's not fear, it's disgust.
Bingo.
Yeah. Can you be homo disgusted? Or Islamo disgusted? I don't know. Esoteric Unbound. Trump's tweet reads like the rambling way that he talks. My money says someone showed him how to dictate directly into the app. That could be it too. I hadn't thought about that. He might just be talking into his phone. Yeah, because most of his tweets are pretty well structured. Somebody's writing it for him, probably. But that's unacceptable. Of all the things you failed me on so far, that's the most unforgivable. Jiminy P, I'd be happy to see a Bipty Fender Bender of the week segment. Bipty Whoopsie. Pajit like Prang. What's Prang? That's a new word to me. Curry Collision could also work. All right. I thought maybe this was morally questionable to lean into this given the fatal consequences. But like you said, I did it with Islamic terror attacks that are very deadly. So you did it with the infidels. So I guess I'll have to think about it. Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that. If it keeps AP, Matt, glad you still have a WRX. Just need to change your name to Kyle. Wear a Monster hat, vape, and end every sentence with bro. I don't fit that stereotype. Truth be told, there's a lot about the community that I hate. People, they drive their cars like jackasses. They have like a super lame sense of superiority about it, even though the cars are far from perfect. I love the cars, but they're not for everybody. And there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to buy one. And frankly, like given my experience with them, it's kind of a reliability issue too. Like they don't have the greatest longevity. That's a problem. And they're fun cars to drive. But listen, you're not on a track. And people who drive on regular roads around like they're on some track piss me off because they ruin the fun of those cars. Not just the WRX. It's not like the most capable car in the world. It's just a fun car to drive. But if you're the sort of person who drives a car that's quick and fun handling, and you drive it like a jackass on the normal streets, that's not cool. Like go to a track, get in whatever sort of driving club you want to do. There's a lot in the community I can't stand. So the fact that I don't necessarily fit the community is quite all right with me. But my prior Subaru and my current one, they're very rare. They hold their value because mine have never been vaped in. And I never will. Unless Joshy Boy comes to visit, and then he'll probably smoke in my car. But until that
more than likely.
Yeah. Joshy Boy, what kind of clapped out Altima do you drive?
Well, it is clapped out, but it's not an Altima. I drive a 2002 Nissan Pathfinder.
Okay.
So it's an oldie. It gets me from point A to point B. I've had to have some work done on it.
My wife had an Xterra for a while, and that was kind of
pretty good.
Yeah, it was an interesting car.
But the only thing I got left, hopefully, is I need to get some better tires now. So.
Well, tires are probably the most important thing you can buy for your car. People learn their lesson about winter tires the hard way. I don't. You probably don't get a lot of snow there, but if you live in a snowy climate, get some winter tires. Good investment.
We here at the South, we're not equipped for snow. When it does snow, it doesn't last very long. So we don't need to salt our streets. The atmosphere itself will take care of it.
Thank you, AP. And thank you for defending the honor of the Subaru community. We take a lot of... you guys get a lot of shit. A lot of it deserved, but some of it not. Anyway, Godspeed. Purpose of the Ages. I have a black female flight instructor, must disagree that they cannot do that job. I have my life in her hands with full confidence. And this is like, I guess, with reference to the Charlie Kirk quote about it.
Mm-hmm.
She has saved me from crash landing, stalling, spinning, and overall learning to fly. Okay. I think this is a bit.
No, that's not a genuine.
But he's wait. No, it's yeah. I thought I retract my rim shot. I thought there was like a bit going on here. No, I think it's okay. I have a black female flight instructor, must disagree that they cannot do that job. I have my life in her hands with full confidence. She has saved me from crash landing, stalling, spinning, and overall learning to fly. Okay, so you're right. I think that's sincere.
That is genuine.
And I think that what this is getting at is like the Charlie Kirk quote that they often present to smear him. I don't think anybody has said it's like impossible that any black woman could ever do it. I think the fear is, given the political preferences of a lot in this country,
yeah, a lot of them
you have to question why the person is there. Were they selected for talent and ability to do it, or were they selected for demographic considerations?
And that's really
the problem. And you don't know. You have no idea. If you're just walking onto a plane and you look in the cockpit and Shaniqua is there telling you about how she was at the store buying bananas and someone said ooh, ooh, ah, ah to her, you have no idea. Was she selected for talent in piloting, or was she selected because she has the right skin tone?
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate for those who actually who know how to do their job that aren't white or whatever. It's kind of just unfair to them.
Well, it creates a presumption. Yeah, I mean that's the irony. You want to defeat stereotypes. No, it serves the stereotype when you put people in the token role in that way.
Yeah, like I know that I'm technically not black, but I still have to kind of deal with that. I was like, well,
that's why you can't call Joshy the token of this stream, is because he doesn't count as black. Esoteric Unbound. Debating the propriety of women in uniform is one thing. Doing so in the wake of a young woman losing her life while serving is another. The latter is socially retarded. I don't know. I don't think. So if I gather what you're saying, like, it's the timing, right? It's sort of like talking about school shootings after the school shooting or something like that. Obviously I don't mean any disrespect to that woman or her family, and I hope they wouldn't take it that way. It's a tremendous loss that nobody should suffer. But I don't think it's. I personally don't think it's inappropriate to have the conversation about women in military roles in this context.
And for me, it's just. To have women in those roles and in combat, it's not just the fact that most of them can't do it, right? I'm not just saying, oh, women suck or anything like that. I have two sisters. One is in the army, and I'm glad she's not facing combat. But I have two sisters and a mom, and I usually think about what if they were in that situation. It's more of a protection thing, right? I don't want you in these roles because, one, you may not be able to do it, and two, that's something you should be protected from.
Yeah,
those are highly stressful situations. So I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. It's just the fact that I'd rather guys do that, while you either have a support role where you're safe, and I don't know, something that doesn't immediately put you in harm's way. That's my thing.
Thank you, Esoteric Unbound. Appreciate it as always. Purpose of the Age is real change to the justice system will only come when people like Alaskan Avenger focus their assaults on the judges and the official authorities. Vigilante justice allows the authorities to outsource and soften official justice. I laugh, but I mean, I get exactly what you're saying. The question is, for the people who put these criminals back out onto the streets, not just in the context of child abuse, but like we saw with the guy who lit a woman on fire on the Chicago train, or the guy who stabbed Irina Zarutska. What accountability do the judges have? I think that's a perfectly fair question. And outside of going after the people who abuse you directly, the people who willfully, intentionally put these criminals back out on the street to victimize more people, is there valid vigilante justice to be taken against them? I think that question also depends a lot on what methods of accountability exist for them. I guess like impeachment, removal from office. Right. To my knowledge, I've never heard of a judge being there's no criminal charges that apply, right? Like you can't. There's no kind of negligence charge that could go to a judge for being such a Tim Walz retard as to put these people out on the street. never heard of such a thing. So it would have to be political accountability. Like you will be removed from office by whatever the legislature or whatever body can do that in the jurisdiction we're talking about.
We all know that ain't gonna happen. Again, I'm gonna be a little bit of a hypocrite, just a bit. Yeah, you can beat up all of the molesters and stuff all you want to, but if you have the judges who keep putting them out there and everything, then at some point you do have to go after them as well.
Yeah, who knew how based? Remember that guy in Las Vegas, that other Nelson, who jumped over the judge's bench?
Like, I remember
that guy was a super predator for sure. That guy was. I mean, he jumped like he was like Michael Jordan jumping from the free throw line.
Dude had hang time on that.
Yeah, for sure. We need that guy jumping at these judges. Repurpose his powers for good. Mm-hmm. Maybe I think you've solved it. Purpose of the ages. I think that's one thing we could all agree on there. Esoterica Unbound. I've occasionally fantasized about my mom's third husband meeting a bad end. That said, this type of is it vigilantism or vigilanteism? I never know, but that word
vigilanteism or vigilantism
is particularly inappropriate since it will lead to the end of the offender registry. Okay. Yeah, well, there was a lot of interesting things about the offender registry in that story, too, because one of the guys he attacked said, well, we all think it's a good thing for the registry to be out there because you know who your neighbor is. And yeah, it is. Like, I want to know if there are sex offenders in my neighborhood who I have to watch out for with my kids.
Yeah.
His point was, well, it makes us all vulnerable to victimization in this way. Yeah, you know who else was vulnerable to victimization, though? The kids you victimized. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I have a hard time sympathizing with that. But thank you, Esoterica Unbound. Injured Guardian. Jason didn't hunt his stepdad first because it would be a much tougher job mentally, to say the least. And he lacked a trailer to haul the wood chipper. I didn't ask. I didn't know if he wanted Fargo methods of justice, yeah.
No, but I do understand that at least. It is more like there's some things that I wouldn't talk to my dad about yet. Like he's a deacon at my old church, right? I haven't spoken to him yet about me becoming a catechumen for an Orthodox church because I tried it with my mom and she thought I was joining some kind of cult, right? So I can understand not being mentally ready to face the man who pretty much destroyed you, right? And it's far easier to just kind of unleash that fear to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand that, and maybe he would agree to that. I don't know that he wouldn't. You know, it's a limited time conversation, so I'm not saying he disagrees with that. But I will note that his answer was not that it would have been too mentally difficult. His answer was, I wish I could have.
Wow, okay.
He cited logistical difficulty, as in I didn't live in Washington, but he did live in Washington for some time. He lived in Spokane. Mm-hmm. So to me, there would be opportunity. Again, I say this as someone who appreciates his time, and I'm not trying to rip him, but that's one thing I have a hard time understanding. Like if you had the opportunity to go after the guy who abused you, and you wanted to do that, why not? Why didn't that happen? But as he would freely admit to, he lived a life of crime. All right, if we want to sit and analyze every decision he made, there are a lot of mistakes that were made. He would freely admit to that. So. Could be another one. Producer Tim says, 1, dreadlocks and especially braids are not natural hair. They're stylized hair. A fair point. You can't protect the dreads.
Okay, hold on.
Only
I gotta
afros.
push back on that. Right? This is my natural hair that is stylized. Thank you very much.
But if you don't you have to like twist it or do something to it?
Yeah, I grew this out and I twisted it together. Yeah. It's my natural hair that's stylized. So that guy's wrong.
Not. But your hair is afro then. That's natural. It's like saying that a woman's hair, her curls are natural. No, she used a curling iron. You know, that's not natural.
Well, if it's from her head, yeah, I would consider that still natural.
No, there's all kinds of artificial stuff you can do if it's from your head. You could color it. You could curl it. Cutting a haircut is unnatural, is it not?
Okay, fine.
You know,
I still hold my position though.
All right. 2, the brushed or combed hair is also not natural. Yeah, but white people are expecting.
What are you talking about, brother?
Because it's a artificial human modification.
Okay, I see.
Of the hair. So like, yeah, leaving your hair in a knotty, gross, matted mess is natural. but white people are expected to brush or comb their hair for jobs. Also, I guess they've fixed all their other problems. Yeah, Pennsylvania has many to consider, but go into this.
That is
Anyway.
fair. That is fair. All right,
Injured
fine.
Guardian says furry war. Everyone knows furries can't fight. I don't know. The furries are on a tear lately.
They can get really violent.
Yeah.
Right? They've been kicked out of many conventions.
Don't dismiss mental illness, man. They can. It goes a long way in fighting ability. Injured Guardian, starving thief. There's an actual Justice Warrior sounder for that. Does he have a bit about that? He probably does. But yeah. I'll have next time Sean is on. I'll have to ask him about it. Purpose of the Ages. Not surprising you and Joshy came to my conclusion about national justice without reading my really smart super chat. We still ought to pressure judges to stop being evil and actually support true justice, even violently. I'm much more sympathetic to that. The idea that we need to go after the people who are intentionally putting dangerous people back out onto the streets. I mean, that makes sense. And those people exercise authority over all of us. It's not. A guy attacked somebody in another state or something like that. That's not necessarily connected to us.
Yeah, so if I was in charge and a judge let like a registered sex offender go because, oh, well, I didn't see the harm in this, as well, your head's gonna roll.
Purpose of the Ages clarifies prior. Again, I retract my rim shot because it was not a bit, he says. My instructor was assigned to me and my heart sank. So he was afraid. He was afraid of Shaniqua to start. I gave her a chance in the face of my stereotype assumption, but she spoke well, is intelligent, and deserves to be respected. We should be aware of bias. But that is, what you're talking about there is correct, insofar as you are aware of group tendencies or risks, but you also understand the importance of judging an individual as an individual. Now, when your life is on the line in a plain context, hey man, I wouldn't blame someone who maybe would decide otherwise and say, I'm not risking my life on this. But in terms of your ability to respect and interact with others in a normal, not life on the line context, you're doing what is exactly correct there. You're aware of group tendencies. You can recognize patterns. You're not going to deny the realities that exist on average. But you also recognize that averages don't define the individual, and the individual is still entitled to individual judgment. So that makes perfect sense. Congratulations on your bravery, though.
Yeah.
Because if you thought I'm going to risk death, man, and you did it,
and that's
good for you.
I'm extremely sympathetic to that too. I'm not saying that I kind of get looked at that way, but I do. Well, first of all, I'm not black, so I can't be too completely sympathetic. But I do get that some people may be hesitant on somebody like me until they actually get to know me a bit better. Because my coworkers can joke around me, right? Even make racial jokes around me.
Yeah.
They were reluctant at first because, oh, he's a black guy, he might get mad. But so I get it. It's a tightrope to walk. That's why the Kanikas have got to go.
Just all the Nelsons have to go, but the Joshies can stay.
Have to go.
Purpose of the Ages. My bias about Joshy is still to be proven wrong. Joshy, shape up. It's ask, not axe. Well, you're right about that.
Bingo. I never said axe.
You bullshit.
When?
That's some bullshit. You've said axe many times. I'm sure you probably said it. This is why.
Sounds like
this is why I call you out on it. Is because you go back and forth. So I know you know how to say ask.
I'm pretty sure I say axe.
One more time.
Ask.
Now that you're thinking about it, but next time you say it, I'm going to call you on it because I know that you say axe. I've heard it many times.
Look, in my defense and in every other person's defense, they're very similar in sound. So it's a common mistake. All right. I will emphasize the K just like
Quote
emphasize
Nelson.
the H in
That's some bullshit.
Okay. I'll do that.
Thank you. Purpose of the Ages. He needs to be called out on that, just like I got called out on Epitome. All right, Ginger Ninja to close over on Rumble. That makes perfect sense. This is our conversation about, the theory of a justice system and carrying a lot of water. That makes perfect sense. But how unjust does our justice system itself have to be before it is itself part of the evil? I think we agree mostly, but maybe disagree on where that line is. I don't even think we disagree on the line, really. I think it's It's just that it's sort of like the question of government itself. And the John Adams quote of our Constitution is designed for a moral and religious people, and it is wholly unapplicable to anyone else, whatever the quote is, something like that. The point is that there are more or less moral systems of pursuing justice, systems that are better or worse in design, I think, but none of them, just like government, but none of them can overcome a society with a rotten moral core. Whether the king himself has a rotten moral core or the people who democratically vote have a rotten moral core, there is no system that can overcome a fundamentally immoral people. And I think we're witnessing a lot of that right now in the context of a justice system, in the context of a system of government. If the people are moral degenerates, the government and the justice system will be moral degeneracy. And there's no fixing that without a renaissance in the moral core of the people themselves. And that's where we have to get. And I would hope that we would agree on that, because everything else is secondary to that. Your design of government doesn't matter if the people are terrible or morally confused.
Well, if I was a benevolent dictator, right?
But he has to be that. He has to be benevolent. He has to be good moral core.
That's about me.
Oh, well,
I know I will be.
All right.
Everybody will have cornrows and dreadlocks.
There'll be no hair discrimination ever. All right, we're all set on Odyssey. We're set on Rumble. I think we're all set on YouTube and Tippy. Man, that 3 hours disappeared. We're already beyond 3 hours, so that's a good time to call it a night. But anything else you want to mention before we're out of here?
No, the whole vigilante thing was a good conversation to have. I know some people may disagree with me, but my opinion is right and y'all's is wrong. There you go.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks to our live chatters and super chatters tonight for keeping the live operation running. Appreciate your support for the show. If you're just sitting and tuning in live and chatting, thank you for contributing to the live production as well. If you're listening later on demand, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Thanks to my guest, Jason Vukovich, the Alaskan Avenger. Find his YouTube channel linked atop the description. Thanks to Joshy Boy, of course, for sitting in tonight, his infinite wisdom, his admirable hairstyle, his plume of smoke, all of his essence. Thanks to producer Tim for his assistance, as always. Find everything show-related at mattchristiansenmedia.com or mattis.gay if you prefer brevity. It's a real website. You can check it out. Just like dicks.com. You can type it in. You don't have to be afraid. It goes to Dick's Sporting Goods. mattis.gay comes to me. I'm back on Sunday and Wednesday nights. Have a great night and a great week.
Good night, everyone.